Here we go.
Good evening, Rick. Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really Iron Man, Mr. Stark?
Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles.
Throwing me off here because I can't hear the trailer.
I know, right? Yeah, we'll fix it in post. This is the Comic Book Chronicles, and I am one of your hosts, Roddykat. And you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter, and you can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And sound effects you have heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? What do I go with?
It must be nice to have choice.
Straight up Brooklyn in the house, representing.
Not a bad choice. Not a bad choice indeed. Yes. Comic Book Chronicles, where you can find us at the Coleslaw the Podcast Network, that's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coleslaw the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and leave us the 5-star reviews.
Yo. Sorry, a little off today because one, we started a little late because of gremlins, and this buzzing in my headphones is not helping any bit. But you know what? We're gonna soldier on with. First of all, like we said last week, we were gonna have some impressions of some shows, and we're going to start off with actually a movie, and that would be Prey, which is the Predator prequel, excuse me.
Right. And I don't think Roddykat had an opportunity to watch this, so I will be the one, Agent_70 will be the one just giving the broadest stroke impressions, non-spoilery, because, you know, we're just trying to spare Roddykat any and all spoilers here. I can just say that I unequivocally say that this is one of the best Predator movies, right next to the original Predator movie. It is well acted. It is well shot. The effects are good. It's amazing that they diverted this to Hulu as opposed to doing it theatrically. And I know there are several business reasons for having diverted this to Hulu way back when. It made some sense. It's not like Predator has been the biggest box office draw ever. But at the end of the day, I think this movie would have spread by the quality of this movie would have spread by word of mouth and would have gotten some people into the box office. You know, the movie's set in 1719, so this is, you know, colonial America. You know, we're following a Comanche, a small branch of the Comanche nation. And, you know, we run into the main character, who is Naru, played by Amber Mid-Thunder, who is, you know, this is like a tour de force for her. You know, I know that she was in the Legion show previously. I did not watch that Legion show because I'm not down with any of the X-Men adaptations until Feige has a chance at it. So I haven't watched any of the X-Men adaptations that were put out by Fox and Friends. You know, shots at them, right? So ultimately, I can just say that this was a ton of fun. It has the spirit of the original Predator. A lot of the action scenes are pretty inventive. There is, of course, some, you know, girl power in here. If you're not down with that, then you're really listening to the wrong show here. But I really appreciated what they did in this movie with this character. She's fighting her version of the patriarchy in the tribal in her tribal setting, which is obviously very real and has been very real for centuries. So seeing her overcome some of that, and even some patriarchal tendencies by the Predator, that's the mildest spoiler I can put in. But ultimately, I highly recommend this movie. It's a lot of fun. You will be on the edge of your seat, even though you're at home. You won't find yourself hitting pause unless you want to replay a quick action sequence. You won't find yourself hitting pause to go to the bathroom. You will actually want to sit there and watch this movie continuously. So please, if you have access to Hulu, please hit up the service and watch Prey as soon as you possibly can.
Okay. I feel like Prey not hitting the theaters is the same reason why Batgirl got canceled, or similar reasons, I should say. Batgirl got canceled, and a lot of stuff that went to HBO Max did similarly.
Right. I mean, yeah, especially the stuff that wasn't early in the pandemic.
Right.
Like Godzilla, King Kong. That one would definitely have been in the theaters. It was just a matter of when it dropped during the pandemic.
Right.
So.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to checking it out. Like I said, like I told Agent 70 before the show, and some people may know this. Like, if it's some things that are heavily hyped, I tend to shy away from until the hype dies down. But this is probably one that I'm going to check out. And I'm kind of upset because I didn't read that Predator book from this week that came out, which has nothing to do with the movie. But
yeah, exactly. It doesn't have anything to do with the movie. But I read it. It was like, I'm not that big a fan of the Predator franchise. I read it just out of curiosity. Obviously, on the heels of watching the Prey movie,
right.
It's more salient, at the front of my mind, right?
Right.
So, but
yeah, but
it was good.
Yeah, but this seems like the kind of thing we'll get to that later, because this seems like up Ed Brisson's alley, put it that way. So.
Definitely. And folks, it has been yet another week. It is time for some. I am not blaming anything on the alcohol, because it's for me, like Homer said, it's the cause of and solution to all of life's problems. For me, it's the solution tonight.
Latom. Yeah, I almost joined him because of the gremlins we were getting a show together. I thought that was Titan.
Good question. Well, in any event, while Roddykat deals with that, I'm going to move on to the next bit of pop culture television that we received this past weekend, and I was able to essentially binge this in tandem with Netflix's Sandman. What I am referring to is Paper Girls on Amazon Prime. So this is a book by Brian K. Vaughan, Cliff Chang, and I forget who the other creator is on this, the colorist, but this is a Brian K. Vaughan book, and I enjoyed this for a bunch of reasons. I felt like they really developed the characters of the 4 Paper Girls, as well as a lot of the supporting cast in the 8 episodes that we have gotten so far in this show. And they obviously set up a sequel to this, because there is a cliffhanger at the end of the 8th episode. The 4 Paper Girls are Erin, Mac, KJ, and Tiffany, and they end up working on Hell Day, which is a little, maybe it's something that I remember as a kid. I forgot that Hell Day is essentially November 1st, the day after Halloween, which I know is All Saints Day. Right? So, maybe
right.
Like the religious bent that I have on it came later. I think maybe the Hell Day thing came when I was a kid, and that's how I recognized it. So ultimately, they end up working their Paper Girl shift on Hell Day, and a bunch of stuff happens, and there's no way to avoid this particular spoiler. It's a time travel shenanigan show.
That was in the trailer anyway, so.
Right. So, that's really the hook to the show. And ultimately, if you're not a fan of time travel, I understand. I'm not that big a fan of time travel. It kind of irked me that Avengers Endgame centered around time travel, a time heist. But at the end of the day, that's one of the, foundational tropes in science fiction and superhero fiction storytelling. We cannot avoid that. So bottom line is, this is a fairly interesting and somewhat novel way of, we're getting mad messages, yo.
Sorry about that.
Getting mad messages here. So what I was going to say is it's not a completely novel way of working a time travel story. There are elements that would seem familiar to you, like a time travel quote unquote authority, not exactly like the TVA, but there's also a counter group against this version of the time variance authority that we know from Marvel and the Loki show, right? So that those two factions are essentially at war with each other, and the Paper Girls find themselves caught in between, just because they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the journey that they go on is really interesting. Like I said, they develop these characters so well. So I definitely recommend Paper Girls season 1, episodes 1 through 8 wholeheartedly. I hope you can make time to watch this show.
Right. Or as going back to something you just said, they were meant to be there. It's going to be found out that they were meant to be there because they are, there's X, Y, and Z, which, as some things tend to happen with time.
With time travel. Exactly. Exactly. So ultimately what it comes down to is, if you have time now, if you can make time now before Game of Thrones, whatchamacallit,
oh, they're still doing that? Huh.
Yeah, that's coming out soon. It's coming out in like 2 weeks.
Huh.
So if you can make time between now and that next game of, I forget what it's called.
Whatever the prequel is, yeah.
Yeah.
And She-Hulk.
See, now I'm kicking myself for not remembering it offhand.
Is it like House of Dragons or something like that?
I'm totally looking this up now because I'm frustrated.
Yeah, and She-Hulk comes out next week, by the way, since we're talking about stuff that's about to come out.
Right, exactly. Thanks for reminding me. I definitely had that on my House of the Dragon, right? So House of the Dragon comes out in 2 weeks. She-Hulk comes out next week. So you have a limited amount of time before that, and we're not far from Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings, coming out on Amazon Prime. So if you can squeeze in these 8 episodes of Paper Girls, I highly recommend it.
All right.
Next up is something I think a lot of people never thought they would ever see, because it's been a candidate for adaptation for 30 years since this book came out, right? What I am speaking of is The Sandman by Neil Gaiman, right? The original artist on the original launch of the book was Sam Keith. And, if you're familiar with this book, I applaud you. I remember being in high school and the literate nerds were the ones who read Sandman, right? Like the non-superhero comic book people read Sandman. When I got to college, that was the cool book to read
The kind
and
of
to
the
spread
hipster
around.
book. The kind of the
What's
hipster
that?
book.
Yeah, like before hipsters really became hipsters,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like in the 90s and the 2000s, right? Like this is kind of pre-hipster, but it definitely hit, it definitely was a thing during the hipster thing also.
Right.
This was like when pre-hipster, like with like the kids who like played hacky sack, and played the guitar on the quad and all that stuff. That brings back some memories of college for me, like early mid 90s for me. I was listening to hip hop and reading superhero comics, and these kids were, playing hacky sack and reading Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
They'd ask me, be like, "Yo, you're into comics? Why don't you read Sandman?" I'm like, "Man, that's not for me. That's not what I'm looking for." Right?
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I knew friends that did both, that read superhero stuff and read Sandman. And I'm giving an old friend of mine from college, one of the few people I still keep in contact with from college, who's a big fan of Neil Gaiman's work. I wanted to give him a week to watch it before I hit him up with whether or not he's watched it. And you know, like I'm probably gonna message him over the weekend and ask him if he's watched it. I know he's probably got things to say about this, but ultimately I was able to binge it in tandem with Paper Girls. And let me tell you, you know, I was able to get through Paper Girls a lot quicker because, you know, I definitely was able to follow its story a lot easier. The Gaiman story here is a little bit more difficult to keep up with, especially early on. The very first, let's say, like 2 episodes to the first 4 or 5 episodes, like the first 4 episodes involve a very odd way to start the story. Now, I know this is relatively faithful to the comic, and maybe this is why I've always had trouble with reading like the first issue of Sandman, because I was never able to get into the fact that the main character, you know, is kind of, I don't want to spoil this. I'll put this into sports ball terms, as Roddykat hates it when I do it this way. But basically the title character, the lead character, is on the bench for like the first issue or 2, right? He's literally on the bench, and a bunch of not subs, but definitely supporting characters are in the lead for the first like 2-3 issues in the comic. And it's much the same in the first like 1 or 2 or 3 episodes of the Netflix Sandman adaptation. Now, one benefit that this adaptation has is that Neil Gaiman is intimately working with this adaptation. He is named as an executive producer. He put together, it seems like he put together the adaptation together with David S. Goyer and Alan Heinberg, who we know from other shows as well as the Young Avengers. So I can say that he has his hands on this show, and all of the small changes and the things that they adapt and streamline were at his behest and with his blessing, because it's almost certain that he was made aware of all of the small changes they needed to make to the story so that they could adapt it to screen. So I feel confident that anyone who was a faithful reader of the Sandman comic will appreciate some of the changes they made in order to make the story flow better on screen. One of the things that I heard that really rung true to me, it definitely rung true to me, was something that both, well, I want to say Mark Bernardin said. I was listening to, I think they streamed it yesterday, the latest Fat Man Beyond episode, and you know, that's with Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin. And I think Mark Bernardin said in his review of the Sandman that each episode is better than each following episode is better than the previous one. And that is high praise. That's actually, I think, a very accurate assessment of this series, this 10-episode series, because it definitely each episode builds upon the previous one, and it is a credit to the story and a credit to the storytellers of this adaptation that they're able to pull that off, that each following story is better than the last, and it's better executed, it's better shot, it just keeps getting better. So you don't find yourself with any lulls, there's no mid-season slump, you know, like what we kind of get with the Disney Plus MCU shows. We don't have that here. Each episode keeps getting better and better than the previous one. So I think that is the best kind of praise that I can second. You know, originally stated by Mark Bernardin, but I am definitely seconding that emotion. Shout out to Smokey and the Miracles. There's just one music reference of many to come, folks. I definitely second that because I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think that's a great way of looking at this. I think the acting in this is good. I saw one criticism that Morpheus wasn't pale enough. I'm like, come on, man, they're not gonna paint him. You know, they're not gonna give him like full body paint. You know, he's just gonna be pale.
Well, given the flack they've given to, you know, the young lady that's playing Death and Gwendolyn Christie's who's playing whatever she's playing, or Lucifer, you know, I'm not surprised by that.
Right. But that's, I mean, that's like, you know, that's being like nitpicky. You know, obviously with the swap of Death turning her into a black woman. I sort of understood it because that Death character is iconic looking, you know, with the way she's drawn, especially I think by Chris Bachalo. I definitely understand it, but at the same time, once I saw her step onto the screen with the ankh around her neck, I knew who it was. I was like, oh, okay, I dig it. That's cool. And her acting and the episode is phenomenal. I have to say, I don't know if I actually made this clear when I first started talking about Sandman. I've never read Sandman. I think I did mention I've only ever been able to get through the first issue, and I couldn't bring myself to the second one because I was just thrown off by the fact that the main character is on the sidelines.
It's kind of dense, also reportedly.
It definitely is. It definitely is. I'm not against dense comics.
Right.
I definitely lean towards artistic focused comics. That's not even, you know, that's not even an understatement. Obviously, you know, I came up at the time at a time when the founders of Image were in their heyday and then broke away from Marvel. So I definitely bought a lot of comics based on the art. But this is also right around the time that Sandman dropped, and that's a comic that really inspired a lot of people to quote unquote take comics more seriously. So right. At the end of the day, I also recommend the Sandman. You do not have to have read the source material in order to enjoy this. Same thing with Paper Girls. But, you know, if you want a little extra, you know, as people tend to do with anime and manga, hey, if you want to, you know, seek it out because you like the show, go for it. Definitely. You know what's funny about that? That's one way of looking at it. You know, I did the same thing with My Hero Academia. Mm-hmm. I will say that much like Lord of the Rings, which is essentially my frame of reference when it comes to watching something and then going back to the source material. Okay. Watching the first Lord of the Rings movie gave me visual reference and story reference so that I could sit down and read through the 3 books. Right. I did not read through the 3 books in junior high school like every other nerd. Right. I know a lot of nerds that I came up with read The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy in junior high school, maybe even late elementary school.
Or were supposed to.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. No, but I know that they did. Right. I know like old buddies of mine who, you know, they were never like that into comics, but they were into a little bit of fantasy, so they read Lord of the Rings. You know, these are like my junior high school D&D buddies.
I was about to say.
Right. Some of them. Right. Some of them I'm still buddies with to this day. Right?
Oh, then you're going to enjoy. You and or they are going to enjoy some news we have later on.
Right. So bottom line is, I watched the first Lord of the Rings movie not being that familiar with the source material. And like I said, it gave me that frame of reference and, you know, that visual reference, the story reference to jump into the source material, see what they excised for the adaptation, you know, what Peter Jackson decided was not going to be included in the film, even in the extended edition. Shout out to Tom Bombadil. And and you start to figure out why those decisions were made. And I was able to use that as a springboard to finish the last 2 books. And I was able to read the trilogy, to complete the trilogy before Two Towers came out. And obviously before Return of the King came out. So that can be a way for you to more easily digest some of this source material. So that is one way to approach this. You do not necessarily have to read the source material first. You can actually circle back after you watch and read the source material and take it in with a different set of eyes. And I think that that is one way to enjoy both the shows and the source material. And that is it for me. I've covered now 3 bits of pop culture in about 20 some odd minutes.
Side note, there was an article, I don't know if you saw it, that Peter Jackson is kind of out there divorcing himself from the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh, no. Oh, you mean from the show or from the movies?
Well, there was something about that too, because I think there was like, yeah, they said they were going to send him some scripts for the show, but they never did, something like that. Or I think that's what one article said. But no, there was another. Yeah, but there was another article that it sounded like he was. I don't know. I just saw the title of it and I kind of just skimmed the article about it seemed like he was divorcing himself from the movies, even to the point of hypnotizing himself. I don't know how true that part is, but I saw hypnotizing in somewhere in the either title or whatever the case may be. And I'm sitting here like, what? But yeah, it sounds like, I don't know, he might have been trying to divorce himself from the movies because of some odd reason.
Why?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy.
So I don't know. I had to go back and I didn't pull it for the show, but I did see it, and I was like, I don't know whether I was going to pull it or not. But either way, that was the thing. So I will go ahead and say before we move on that I have not seen any of these stuff. That's why I didn't say too much about any of them, and I have not read either the source of materials for Paper Girl and Sandman either. But I know Tim, one of our hosts, Tim, did read Paper Girls, and sounded like he did not have a chance to check out the show yet. So maybe we will yet get his impressions at some point when he's able to. That being said, we're going to move on to the comics of the week. And I believe we said we were going to start off with Amazing Spider-Man number 7.
Yes. Let me get my sheet, my show notes loaded up. Amazing Spider-Man number 7 is written by Zeb Wells, with art by John Romita Jr., inks by Scott Hanna, colors by Marcio Meniz, and letters by, I believe it's Joe Caramagna. I have a typo in my... I
believe you're right, because that's probably what
yes, it is. VC's Joe Caramagna.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Indeed. So, I'm just going to go right off the bat and say we still do not have the one piece of information that we are sorely looking for. However, we do get a little more background into some aspects of previous events, because this story seems to be taking place about definitely a few months or a little while before the Hellfire Gala. We do know that much. And after whatever happened, but before the start of this volume, seems like. I think that's accurate enough to say. Because we are basically getting Peter being, as Norman said, headhunted by Norman Osborn. Basically, Norman Osborn's giving him the big sale and to try to get him to work for Oscorp, which we know is going to end up happening. We do get shades of the new suit. We got the new suit, but we also got a little background into the situation between he and Mary Jane. Not much, and definitely not what happened. But apparently, we get a little bit on that situation because Peter ends up running into Mary Jane and her new boyfriend. I don't know who the heck she is that she had his child with in 6 months, which is still a stick in the craw. But
like, we don't know if they're just stepchildren. That's the thing. So
right.
But obviously we're meant to be thrown off because the little kid looks a lot like MJ with red hair.
Yes.
You know, I'll drink to how confusing this is.
So there is that. Also, so there was an intern. I don't know if you noticed this or not, and I didn't
Oh
pick
yeah,
up
of
on
course.
this. And
She says her name, so
Yes.
it's not like it's.
I know, and that's the part that bothers me because, and it could be JR's art that messes with me here because of like, wait, I did not know that was who that was until she
It's
said
the
her name.
goggles. It's the goggles.
It's more than it was more than just that. But I'm sitting here like, wait, that's supposed to be Kamala? Because that didn't look anything, I mean, obviously you have a set picture in your mind as to what Kamala looks like at this point, and there being a book that I read previously to this, with her in it from this week, I'm sitting here like, that don't, okay, sure. All right. No.
I was about to say I didn't bump on that. I thought it was the goggles because I definitely, especially with the updo, we don't see her with an updo.
That is also true, exactly, and that was part of it. It's like that's a
right, but it also
and plus
made
she
sense
looks
for the
kind of
setting.
older.
No, but it made sense for the setting that she's in because she's wearing a lab coat to boot. So
Sure.
at the end of the day, or no, not a lab coat. She's actually wearing like
No, she's in a lab coat.
like a hazmat suit, like a lab suit.
Right.
Like
But the fact that,
it's not a coat, but it's
Right.
definitely like a lab suit.
but the fact that she was there at all was also part of the thing. It was like, when did this happen? Obviously, this is something, I don't know if this is going to come back as.
Go ahead. I was going to say, finish your thought, and then I'll jump in.
Oh, I was about to say, because this is nothing that has come up, and she doesn't have a current book at this point outside of the team up book that's starting this week, but that has anything to do with this. But there has been nothing that's been said.
That's probably why she's going to be sprinkled in different books,
Right.
and it makes sense that she'd be in a Spidey book. Maybe why we're not 100% sure why in the Peter book as opposed to the Miles book.
That's the other thing.
But then we also have a Miles crossover into the Peter story in this issue as well.
Kinda.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah,
right
well,
at the
see,
beginning.
I thought about that, but I went and looked for that. Apparently, we'll get to that, but apparently that part also had to do with Peter on the particular thing.
It does, but the point is,
you're right.
What character makes, the character has been predominantly in Miles's book.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, the interaction that they had was in a Miles book.
I believe that's the case.
And it
actually,
came back.
no, because I did the research on that. It was actually Amazing Spider-Man 850. Apparently, when that happened,
It was like an anniversary book then.
right,
Where everyone apparently jumped into Amazing.
right,
So, but at the end of the day, what it came down to is that a character who is usually predominantly in the pages of Miles found their way into the pages of Peter's book because of a certain revelation in that issue, and then bottom line, causes most of the costumed hijinks that occur in this issue.
right. Yeah, particularly at the end of this issue, because and you know what? Which is weird, because I kind of glossed over the front part before the title, before the credits page, and then read into the book. I don't know how I did that, and then I was like, wait, when did this happen? And then I circled back around to the beginning of the book. I was like, all right, okay, that's what caused what happens at the end of this issue, with a particular foe of Spider-Man. Which I'm sitting here like, well, that's a weird thing to throw in with this other stuff, but I guess it is definitely going somewhere and leading us to what was teased in the beginning or in the middle of the book with the suit that I mentioned earlier, because we do know that presumably Peter is getting a new suit if he makes it out of this issue.
I mean, we're gonna assume that he does, but
assume
bottom
that.
line is, I share Roddykat's frustration. We still don't know. We're definitely watching Zeb Wells play an incredibly long game here with Peter and MJ, and figuring out what on earth Peter did to alienate himself and his costumed identity from MJ, from the Fantastic Four, from the other heroes, from everybody, from Aunt May. Right. So we're still stuck 7 issues in trying to figure out what happened.
And I will dare say it still has hooks in me. I can't speak for Agent 70 in this, because we're like, okay, that is that and a couple other things are an interesting enough hook to kind of keep me here for a little bit longer.
I think I'm just reading it because I'm annoyed and frustrated, and obviously we're doing it for, review and educational purposes.
I don't have to read anything for that reason, but but like I said, no, there's for me there is that, but it's also genuinely interesting. I'm not gonna just read something just because it's here for us to go over. So,
well, I mean, there's definitely a few things I differ a little bit in that, because I'll look at it and be like, oh, you know what, this might be interesting, and we have access to it.
Yeah. So, there's that
for the good of the show, and maybe for my own edification and expansion of my horizons. I'll read something that's not always, I think Roddykat was surprised that I read Dark Crisis #3, I think it was last week.
That was from last week, yeah.
Right. So I was like, you know what? Let me read this and see what the hell they're doing.
Fair enough. Oh, actually, I knew there was something I was meant to say. And now I just lost him again. It'll come back up. There was something I was going to mention about something with one of those shows you mentioned earlier that I was going to bring up something about, but I can't remember what it is. So we're going to move on. It's been a long day, folks. So
hell yeah, I will drink to that.
So, but yeah, this whole thing is.
I've got my friend Jack Daniel, who is not a sponsor of the show,
but he's a friend to most, unless you have a particular problem. So
yeah, seriously, like if you find yourself not wanting one drink but 10 drinks, you might have a problem. So please contact, please try to find your local AA group right away.
Indeed, or seek help somewhere. Try to reverse it somewhere, and not being flippant about that. It's serious business.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So we're going to move on to, I don't know, which you want to pick something.
We have a lot of books in common.
We do.
Let me see which.
You know what? I've just caught up with this book. I don't know if this was something you wanted to save for Rapid, but I would say either probably A.X.E or Captain America.
Let's do A.X.E.
Okay.
Because I rather enjoyed A.X.E, and I think one of our other co-hosts enjoyed it as well.
Indeed. Okay. Let me pull up.
So A.X.E, that we were calling A.X.E, as in body spray. Oh no. This is issue number 2, A.X.E Judgment Day number 2 of 6. So this is written by Kieron Gillen with art by Valerio Schiti, colors by Marte Gracia, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So if you just give me a moment, I will pull up my review copy. Do you want to just lead off and hand it off when you feel?
Yeah, there's not much I could really say about this book, because this is kind of one of those ones, like, I feel like I'm going to at some point probably go back and read to a little bit more completion, because there are some, it feels like even if you're up on this book, there is something you feel like you're missing. That's just my opinion on this. But we're pretty much in the thick of it. Kor's been attacked, we've already seen Kor's being attacked. The Korns are, trying to deal with it. The Avengers end up coming in for some odd reason, somehow, some way, to kind of lend a hand on the front line and in the background because of a plan they're hatching with, of all people, Mr. Sinister and Cersei and Ajax, I think. No, it was right. Ajax, not Cersei, because they had Cersei in custody. To renovate, I would say renovate their old home into a new, back to a new station, I would say.
At the end of the day, it's more like reanimate.
Yes, I didn't want to say that, but yes, that is very much the case. But yeah, so there's some big things that end up coming. Well, I would say some big things, but it's basically a big action issue with, like I said, the stuff that's happening in the background, but also some random tertiary characters out in the world that we that we see because of this, and that may or may not have something to do with the resurrection protocols of the Eternals, which was brought up in the Eternals volume, which technically kind of sparked this all off.
Right.
So we're kind of getting some things on that front. But all in all, it's pretty much the big battle of Krakoa and like I said, this background plan to wake this celestial, which I'm sitting here like, you know what? Did they not learn from the MCU, first of all? because let's just say it has partially to do with the brain waves of one Tony Stark, first of all. In a celestial, and if you don't know anything about a celestial, they already are here to judge you. And that comes up near the end of this book. So if you're using the brain patterns of Tony Stark, we know that at one part of the MCU that did not go well. They even referenced Ultron and Hank Pym in said panel. I was like, yeah, you know this is not going to go well. You just know this. And sure enough, it kind of goes the way you expect it would at the end of this book. But we'll see what the fallout's going to be in, I guess, the next issue, or in whatever tie-in issues that come up next. I'm not sure how that. I didn't look at the reading list for this, but regardless, what's coming because of this. So
well, the tie-in issues are going to start coming fast and furious. Much like Dom and his crew are going to start coming over the next month or two. The reading list in August, actually the crossover tie-in issues start, I believe, next week. They started last week, but I think they're going to start in earnest this coming week. Which
would make sense given, like I said, especially what happened in this issue,
Right.
Whether it's going to, well, actually, now that I think about it, because reading Avengers this week, I was like, yes, that's going to be a tie-in issue dealing with the
character. Aaron's putting his story on hold,
right,
so that the Avengers can cross over into Judgment Day,
right, with a character that has nothing to do with the current storyline or anything going on with Avengers right now, apparently. So I'm interested to see where that's going to go, but we'll see next whenever that happens.
Right. One of the things I didn't like about this issue is that, and obviously it depends on the writer. Some writers choose to sideline Thor and some of the more powerful Avengers characters, and obviously this is one of the most powerful Avengers lineups that we've ever seen, right? This definitely rivals or even exceeds the power levels of the Avengers under Hickman. And obviously they task the Avengers with being the peacekeepers. I've likened them to like UN peacekeepers on previous episodes, and I figured that's their role in this crossover, right? In this event, and that's the role that they've taken in this second issue, right? They're tasked with dealing with the fallout of the battle with these gigantic kaiju things that Druig has unleashed upon the world, right? A Starbrand, a Thor, and a Phoenix.
Right.
They don't keep those three characters against the kaiju.
And Captain Marvel, who's no slouch
and Captain Marvel and Carol.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. And I thought about it because they basically just like, Avengers came in, was like, hey, we want to help. And then some battles started anyway, but the X-Men / Krakoans, the mutants basically kind of have it, but they were kind of there. And then it was like, oh, this other thing is happening because of the fallout from these fights. And now the Avengers are gone again.
Right.
I'm like,
what's the point? I'm like, these are like literally like a planet-defending power, a world-destroying power, and the God of Thunder, who's got the power, who basically wields the power of the King of Asgard.
Right.
Right. You're not going to send them against these wannabe kaijus.
Right.
But that's Kieron Gillen. That's the writer making a decision.
Right.
Right, not letting Captain America make the tactical decision.
Right. Even there was that one little, one little exchange between Cyclops and him, which I know it had made the rounds online. I was like, yeah, there you go. So.
Oh, you mean the first one about why they kept things secret?
Right.
Right. Not the second one, which is
right.
Cyclops saying, "You guys go help. We'll stay here."
Right.
Right. And I'm like, come on, man.
Right. And then what we call it being like, see, they're just leaving. I'm like, no, that was a decision one of y'all made.
Yeah, seriously. I was like, shut up, Exodus.
Right.
You zealot. Anyway, I enjoyed A.X.E. Judgment Day #2, so it's definitely a candidate for Click of the Week for me.
Yeah, like I said, I would imagine this is going to, once it's all said and done, it's probably going to read a little bit better. And trade put together a little bit. Mm-hmm. You would probably still, because I don't think when they do that, you would probably still need to go back to the Eternals book, or the last half of the Eternals book, to kind of get a little background into why this is happening. And again, Avengers, still not sure why on Earth they're even here. Like, yeah, the whole Peacekeeper thing is whatever, but I was like, they're kind of on a side note.
Right.
And it's more X-Men and Eternals than, I feel like they kind of put Avengers in here to be like, no, we need the Avengers, so they could, so have something that's we can't have anything line wide adjacent if we don't put the Avengers in here somehow. So we got to kind of throw them in. That's what it feels like.
I was about to say, I think that's definitely part of it. I also think that much like my line of thinking goes, I think you need a group that's caught in the middle.
Perhaps, but we have seen in the past that's not been the case. But yeah, maybe in this one that it'll bear out a little bit better as it goes along. Well,
considering that not everyone knows the Eternals, so you need a more well-known group.
Yeah.
To be stuck in the middle.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's the way I see it. But anyway, moving on. Shout out to President Bartlett.
What's next?
You wanted to do Captain America Sentinel of Liberty #3?
Sure, we can.
All right, because I know you mentioned it.
Yeah.
So, Captain America Sentinel of Liberty #3 is written by former guests of the Comic Book Chronicles, Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, art by Carmen Carnero, colors by Nolan Woodard, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna.
I gotta say, right off the bat, I am actually loving the art by Carmen Carnero in this.
I disagree.
Oh, okay.
I disagree because I'm distracted by it, and it's not a good look.
Huh. Interesting.
But that's just me. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with having differing opinions on the art, because at the end of the day, it's a preference. It's personal preference. We can both pick at storytelling and writing choices, because that's fair play. But when it comes down to whether or not we like art, that's definitely subjective. It's one of the most subjective things we can talk about.
And tend to.
Right. So ultimately, what it comes down to is, this story has two prongs to it. One of them is Bucky dealing with the ongoing saga of Peggy Carter. And, I hesitated to say that because I didn't necessarily want to spoil the fact that Peggy Carter is alive in this comic book timeline. But it's been an open secret for a while now, going back to Ta-Nehisi Coates' run previous to this run.
And I feel like you mentioned it then.
Right. And so Lansing and Kelly have done a good job in picking up the ball from the end of Coates' run and taking it forward in terms of Peggy's story. I really do appreciate that. What I don't necessarily appreciate is this reimagining and retconning of the origin of Captain America's shield. And I understand why, it's a big conspiracy. Everything is a conspiracy. Shout out to Damon Wayans and In Living Color. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, conspiracy. So what it comes down to in this issue is that there is a retcon to the origin of the shield. We don't have a complete retcon where Dr. Myron McLean, the metallurgist, is wiped out of the story, but we have an addition to the story.
Right.
Now we have this, this group that has the shield, the emblem basically of the shield, forged, and there may in fact be a Wakandan. It struck me as a Wakandan who's working with the vibranium, who's working in the forge.
Which honestly, that part makes
right. It makes all the sense. It's logical.
Yeah, that part.
Right. That's logical. So like why would they put someone of African descent if they weren't Wakandan working with vibranium?
And
because the accident that produced the ore was under Myron McLean's watch, but the actual forging into the shield, into the shape of the shield, was always kind of glossed over, and obviously the story is meant to expand upon that.
Right.
You were saying?
I was going to say, and the ties to one of these. So one, there's this shadow group who I know Agent 70 probably may or may not get this reference, but who seems to be of a Metal Gear-esque type shadow operative group in the background that's kind of doing some things and have been doing some things for apparently the last century. Right. And that has something to do with the shield. And one of them seems to be tied to the forger of the shield. If I'm reading something that was said in this issue is correct. Mm-hmm. So there is that, and to what end all of this, in what they're trying to do has anything to do with one has to do with the other, we don't know.
Right. So I think the best part of the art that I can speak to is some of the dynamic layouts. Mm-hmm. I'm just not a fan of her style.
Okay.
Roddykat may have a different opinion on this, and it seems like he does. Tell us what it is.
On this particular one, I do like, so on this one, I can't really put my finger on it because I know I've seen her art in other places before, and it seems like this is a little bit different from the other things I've seen from her. But I feel like in a weird way, the art fits the story. And I guess some would say it could be kind of rough and busy in spaces. If that is, I don't know if that is a criticism one would lend to it, but I can see why someone would say that. There is a weird, on the side note, a couple of MCU moments I don't know if you picked up on in this.
MCU? Oh, I mean parallels, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously one of them is to the very first Captain America movie, First Avenger. Mm-hmm. What was the second one?
Basically something that happens with Cap and his shield in any of those movies. Particularly, I guess, well, and I guess it did happen a lot more in the Cap movies, but I think it might have happened once.
The surfing?
No, not that, but the way he picked up the shield in one of those panels.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I did catch that also.
Right.
I did catch that also.
Yeah.
So obviously that wasn't something that was popularized until we saw that in Winter Soldier.
Correct. And also, and speaking of that, the shield surfing that Agent 70 just mentioned, a couple of interesting uses of the shield that, granted, we have seen in way. Well, one particular we've never seen before, but was the shield surfing, but the other one we hadn't really seen as a type of sonar. I don't know if he's going to continue to do that. I was like, well, that's a novel way to do it because it's partially made of a vibranium. So ipso facto, do something with that. Which, like I said, I don't think has ever been done for that. I was like, that's novel. That's kind of interesting. But this whole thing with Peggy Carter, which, like I said, I remember you talking about that, or kind of talking around that, I should say. And it's still weird to me that is the case. Mm-hmm. And her showing up in here, and her and Bucky having this this standoff, like in some old Bond movie or something, was kind of interesting and also weird at the same time. So I don't know. Like I said, at this point, and the way I caught up with this, like I kind of read all these back to back. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of catching up with everything that's been going on with this book, because I've definitely been reading Sam and reading this. And I'm starting to see where I can see where that upcoming Captain America focused crossover event's gonna start playing into things. So because it seems like it's starting to throw shades of that around.
Got it. I mean, I see it too. Yeah. I definitely see it too. But I'm just a fan of the character. Mm-hmm. I don't mind the retcon so much. It's just not, it's not something that I'm unused to, because obviously, bringing Bucky back was a gigantic retcon.
Right.
But because of the way it was pulled off, it was just so well told. That's why everyone was a gigantic fan of that Brubaker run.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in any event, we can move on to the next book.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where some people was like, well, did the Shield actually need any retconning into it? Like, I can see why that could be a critique levied.
Right. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's hard to find something fresh to tell about Steve Rogers, the character, because we've already seen him in how many MCU movies?
Right. And also at the same time, it's like, yeah, that one, like you said earlier, it was a thing with the forging of the Shield that kind of got glossed over, and like it's good to see that it's been at least picked up on, to what end we don't know, but like, yeah, okay, it's a nice little pickup.
Right.
Whether how many people are going to care about it, who's to say?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a specific detail that gets glossed over, because if I recall, I want to say it was you know what? I don't know. I can't say that which artist did it, because I remember seeing it in Marvel Saga. And which is obviously a reprint and an edited retelling of the history of the Marvel Universe, right? So I can't say what issue offhand, although they did have it indexed in Marvel Saga, what issue they pulled that particular snippet from, where Cap is presented with the shield in Marvel Comics lore, right? The circular shield, right? It's a retcon. That in itself is a retcon, because when Simon and Kirby initially did the OG Captain America books, they never, dwelled upon that. Cap was too busy fighting the Nazis.
Right.
Going from a triangular shield to a circular shield.
Right.
So they never spent that kind of time on that. Only in the age of Stan and Jack did they even bother to go backwards and retell some of that. And even later, I don't even know if Stan and Jack were working on Cap when they revealed some of the stuff about Cap Shield. It might have been even later.
Right.
But in any event, we can move on to what else do we have in common before we go rapid fire?
Oh,
because
we actually
both have a lot of comics to go through.
We have at least 4 books in common.
Okay,
so
pick one.
So I'm like, okay, I was about to say, if you want to do rapid fire, and then I'll just pop onto it, then.
Oh, sure. You want me to do that? Just go rapid fire? All right. So in honor of Predator, that is where we get our rapid fire sound effect from, folks. In honor of Predator, we are going to start our rapid fire segment right about now.
I ain't got time to breathe.
Okay, first up is Avengers number 59. It is written by Jason Aaron with art by Javier Garron, color art by David Curiel. I'm going to start getting into saying color art because that's what the credits have said. I know that Roddykat has adjusted his way of recording credits to say to read CA as in color artist. I read that as cover artist. That's my problem. So
okay,
yeah, that's just
no. I can see it. No, I see that.
That's the traditional notation, right?
Right.
Of cover art, because colorist, the traditional term, was just indicated by a C.
Right.
But
It still
nowadays,
does.
because of the immense contribution that colorists provide to comic books, they now call them color artists, at least in Marvel Comics. This book is also lettered by VC's Corey Petit. I've been saying Petit, but that's not how it's spelled. It looks like
okay.
it's the French Petit.
Right.
So
Wait, is that confirmation or is that?
that's just me.
Okay.
That's just me simply because that's what Petit is spelled like. Petit
Sure.
is spelled differently. You know,
Right.
like that awful, I say awful, but he was a good pitcher, but he played for the Yankees, so screw him. Andy Pettit. And his name was spelled differently with 2 T's, with 4 T's, like Pettitte, I think his name was spelled.
Gotcha.
So, but screw him, he was a Yankee. Anyway, we continue on the multiversal. We continue on the quest to introduce and assemble the multiversal Avengers. Now we're in the Wild Wild West, not Will Smith's Wild Wild West, but maybe the Wild Wild West from that '80s song. More music references here, folks. And we have Mephisto playing games with this reality's versions of these characters, and the Avengers who are chasing Mephisto throughout the different timelines intervene and save the literal bacon of these multiversal Avengers. Bottom line here is that these multiversal Avengers are going to assemble quite literally at the end of this story arc. But meanwhile, this story is going to take a quick hiatus next issue to observe. I make it sound like a holiday, right? To observe an A.X.E. Judgment Day tie-in issue. So we're going to get that in issue number 60 coming out very soon, next month. So this story will be on hold while A.X.E. Judgment Day crosses over into the pages of the Avengers book. Do you have anything to add?
The only thing I'll add is that it seems like Aaron's having fun making these characters up. And that's always appreciated. Because like I said, I can cite back to his Thor's run in Secret Wars. Again, it's a great story. You should read it. For his penchant for making characters up. My only question is, and I've been reading Avengers this whole time,
right?
And I still don't remember how in the hell they're just zipping through timelines like this. Was that?
I forgot. I forgot.
Exactly. So I'm sitting here like, how are they even doing this? Like, they just don't happen to be zipping through timelines and finding these folks. Which, I mean, granted, comics, you could just lend it all to that. But I was like, what are they even doing this? And that's just me. But like I said, it's just like, because all we see is like they're just being one place to the next, and kind of helping out as it were. So it's just something that I just not braced on, but
you bumped on it.
Yeah.
I get it. You bumped on that. I get it, and I appreciate that because I glossed over that because this story has been going on for a while. Like introducing all of these new multiversal Avengers. So I have completely forgotten how the Avengers are on their time tripping quest, how they're executing this time tripping quest.
Right. Gotcha. Anyway.
Forget the fact that they've literally got a Phoenix and a Starbrand on their team.
Yeah, but even with that, I'm like, I don't think they have that kind of power. Unless they're channeling some kind of way.
I know.
So,
my suspicion, if I recall, now you're gonna make me look this up later, like after the show.
You're welcome.
I think it's something to do with Tony, because
of course
he was the one that first went into like the prehistoric times, and they were able to find his skeleton, if you remember that.
I do, but that was he didn't do that himself though. I think he was shunted back there some kind of way, if I remember that part. Like, that was a way long time ago.
Oh my gosh, right?
So, but yeah, I remember that, but I figured that was under no power of his own that happened.
Right, and I'm assuming that, something that they've, figured out a way, they've MacGyvered a way or Tony Starked a way to figure out this version of time travel to at least pursue Mephisto.
Right. So, yeah, but I guess that bears some research at some point. Not here, not now.
Yeah, not here, not in the here and now.
Right.
Next up is Black Panther #8. It's written by John Ridley with art by Stefano Landini, colors by Maya Miller, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So, we are in the end game now. We are in the end game of this particular Black Panther story involving essentially a civil war / coup perpetrated by the Hatut Zaraze, and T'Challa essentially coming in not to retake the throne, but to overthrow the generals who have seized power from the democratically elected Wakandan government. And it is the very definition of a Pyrrhic victory that T'Challa claims at the end of this issue, because while his efforts are successful, he is left alone. And I actually felt bad for T'Challa, even though we know all of the decisions that his friends, colleagues, family make in this issue are a direct result of the decisions and the actions that T'Challa took while both king of Wakanda and in his post as, ceremonial head of state of Wakanda. All of the secret machinations that he put into place. And all of those things came home to roost, and he basically found himself alone. And I actually really felt bad, because the way Ridley and the way Landini executed that last page, I genuinely felt bad for T'Challa there.
Same.
What do you have to add?
Yeah, though, I partly, up until that point, this whole thing, and I don't know why I feel this way, because it really wasn't, but it kind of felt slightly rushed to get to to this point. Because especially with the with how the last battle ended.
I would say yes and no. Hold your thought. I would say yes and no, because the whole setup to the final battle took a while. Gathering the troops, assembling who was going to be part of T'Challa's little rebel band took a while. It was a good 3 issues to do that. Right.
And that's why I say it's weird to say that, because you're right about that. Because everything up until now just it took an acceptable length. But it's just that it's okay, here we go. We're going in here. We're doing this, and through the course of this whole issue, it's all right, done. Go through the motions, battles, done, and then he's by himself. And we're going to go into a new arc, which also is kind of weird because this is issue 8. And normally an arc would be granted, I think this whole arc is it has been 8 issues, but for some
in the interest of trade paperback collecting,
exactly. I was thinking about that. I was like, well, this seems weird if they're gonna put this into a trade, but maybe they'll make an 8 issue trade off of this if they tend to do that. I don't know. That would be the weird part, because normally this would be broken up into 2, and it'd be 2 trades of 5 or 6 issues a piece or something.
Right. If anything, that just might make the price point different on the trade paperback.
Possibly.
Because we're used to seeing 6 issue trades nowadays. It used to be, actually, I think nowadays sometimes they're even 5 issue trades.
Yeah, more so than not. Yeah, 5.
Right. So I think maybe having an 8 issue trade just throws the price point a little bit, makes the price point a little different from what we're used to seeing on the bookstore shelf.
Right. But other than that,
or the comic book store shelf.
Right. Yeah. But other than that, I'm kind of with Agent 7 is then there's you kind of feel bad for T'Challa coming out of this, because of, like I said, everything, like you said, everything that happened, everything that led up to now was because of Leroy.
He's at fault. Right. He's definitely at fault. They're holding him accountable for his actions and decisions. Right. But at the same time, it was kind of, it was kind of pitiable. Mm-hmm. Not pitiful, but just pitiable. Right. To see him in that state at the end of this story arc.
Right. And where he goes from here.
It's not, and what he says, and what he says never struck me as something that that T'Challa as the Black Panther would ever say, right? And it's a development in the character. I don't know. I guess you could characterize it as character growth, acknowledging the fact that even though he's no longer king, he may have felt like he, had so much that he was only able to do things by himself. And to be able to express this particular emotion and this particular feeling may be a sign of growth for the character.
Yeah. And I guess that's a good part about it, because it has led me to think, it was like, okay, so he's here. He's kind of at a down moment. We've kind of seen him in down moments before in other runs, but this is like you said, where everything kind of came home to roost. Where does he go from here? And that part is what I'm interested in going into this, whatever this next arc or next story is going to be, if they pick up on it properly.
Right. And interestingly enough, they actually, and this is a mild spoiler. Obviously, we're not spoiling anything if you read solicitations.
Right.
I haven't looked at solicitations in a while, I'll be honest.
Yeah, same.
I've been kind of flying blind when it comes to the solicitations. Obviously we talk about it in the news, but when it comes to like the Marvel solicitations, I really haven't looked at them in a number of months. And what we find here at the end of this issue is that T'Challa is rejoining the Avengers.
Yep.
So, we'll see that probably reflected in the pages of Avengers sooner rather than later. So, probably in advance of the final assembling of the multiversal Avengers.
Right. And may possibly not in X. So.
Right. Depending on how all that stuff plays out in continuity.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Next up is Ghost Rider Vengeance Forever. Vengeance Forever! V! Not Wakanda, but V! Right? Vengeance Forever #1. It's written by Benjamin Percy with art by Juan Jose Rip, colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So this year marks an anniversary. I forget what year anniversary it is for Ghost Rider. I want to say 40 or 50 years.
You know what? I can probably look that up right now.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd appreciate it. So, I still have to open my review copy, but because I think it does tell me, 50 years. It's right there on the cover. It's a 50-year anniversary of the Ghost Rider concept and character. And in this issue, it is literally a trip down memory lane that is brought about by a magical tattoo artist. I'm no fan of tattoos. I know people are. I understand why. They actually put in here that people get tattoos because they want to remember something, right? I'm a fan of art. I love art. I can't see myself putting art on my body. I'll put it on a piece of paper. I'll put it on a canvas. I'll put it on a computer. I don't need to put it on myself.
You mean not even a cap shield on your arm or something?
No, I got a cap shield on my shirt, yo. Look at this right here. But
if you're watching the video version, and you should.
Right. For real. Right? Like listen to the Brooklyn come out as I get more expressive and I get further into this bottle of Jack Daniels. So, but bottom line here is in this issue, we go down this trip, down this memory lane trip with the Ghost Rider, and we go into the different iterations of Ghost Rider. And Benjamin Percy and Juan Jose Rip do an excellent job of touching upon really all of the eras of Ghost Rider that we've seen since the character's inception, including the Wild West version of Ghost Rider, the non-Hellfire driven Ghost Rider. But I don't know if this is the Ghost Rider. It's not the Ghost Rider in white.
Like Phantom Rider?
It's
not Phantom Rider.
No, not Phantom Rider. I think this is like a Hellfire Ghost Rider from the West. I don't recognize the character. Might be a new character, but they touch upon all of the different iterations from 2099. There's even a quick cameo of the Cosmic Ghost Rider, Frank Castle. But it's just I can't say it's a fun ride because it's Ghost Rider. There's going to be hellfire and vengeance and destruction and misery. So that's, that's part and parcel with any Ghost Rider book. But I enjoyed this little trip down memory lane, and it's definitely fitting as an anniversary of the Ghost Rider concept. Not necessarily franchise, but definitely a concept. It started as, remember when Ghost Rider started to become like a little corner of the Marvel Universe in the 90s? They had the Midnight Suns, everything everything was founded upon the success of that Ghost Rider series.
Yeah, during the Marvel Knights era, correct?
No, previous.
Previous? Huh, okay.
Previous. Like when they initially when they did that that reboot of Morbius and Blade and Midnight Suns and Vengeance. Do you remember that spiky dude who's also like a Ghost Rider clone?
Kinda.
This is the Danny Ketch era. This is
right.
Early mid-90s.
As we've established, I wasn't reading that much around that era, so.
Right. This is like not my heyday of collecting, but definitely the height of my exposure to comics as a college kid that was working in a comic book store.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a lot of these books.
Gotcha.
All right. Next up is Giant Size Gwen Stacy #1. If you thought we were never going to get the continuation of those first 2 Gwen Stacy books, Roddykat's right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
He had no clue this was coming out. I was very happy to see that they basically finish off this mini series by I want to say this is a reprint of the entire series. So I think what they did is that they finish off because it starts with a chapter 1, and I didn't bother to go back and look at the first 2 issues that had been released. Mm-hmm. So I decided just to read this. It's a $10 book, folks. If you're getting a physical copy of this is $10. But I can say that it's a lot of fun to read. It's written by Christos Gage with art by Todd Nauck. Colors are by Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters are by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So, the first 2 issues were previously released just at the beginning or just prior to the pandemic. And this is one of those books that when they went pencils down because of the pandemic, it just never came back. But now we've gotten the completion of this story in this big one-shot, giant-sized book. And I enjoyed it. It was definitely interesting to see Gwen in a different light. For those of you who don't know, Gwen and Harry Osborn did not enter Peter Parker's life until they met in college. In this issue, we follow Gwen and Harry and some other characters who are obviously very familiar to us in the Spider-Man universe, Spider-Man corner of the Marvel universe, but they are at a different high school. They're not at like Midtown High School. They're at Standard High School. And so, high school hijinks are basically all around this story. But ultimately what we have here, I think, is a pretty well-told story. And I give Christos Gage a lot of credit for putting some depth into Gwen. I've always had a soft spot for Gwen ever since Spectacular Spider-Man, the cartoon. I didn't think that Gwen was all that, reading back issues as a kid or even as a teen growing up. I remember I think the first time I remember reading that Mary Jane was jealous of Gwen Stacy was in Spider-Man Blue, that Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale book, where basically she didn't, where Mary Jane was like, how do you compare yourself against like the perfect girl, right? And I remember I want to say it was in the Jed MacKay Black Cat series, where MJ and Felicia had a similar exchange.
Mm-hmm. I was going to mention that.
Right. That's what reminded me of it. And I came to appreciate Gwen Stacy more in the retconning and retelling of her story. Obviously, Spectacular Spider-Man came out on the heels of the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, which had Gwen Stacy at the center as opposed to Mary Jane, But you know, obviously the retcon there was that Peter and Gwen were in high school together, as opposed to in the comics, they don't meet until later in life. But here, I really appreciate that Gwen was her own character and her own person, and wasn't just Little Miss Perfect, you know, and has a depth of character that really had not yet been explored until a series like this. So I give Christos Gage a lot of credit. Next up is Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor, number 3 of 5 of a 5-issue limited series. I know Roddykat read this. It's written by Torunn Grønbekk, with art by Michael Dowling, colors by Jesus Abertov, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So in this issue, we find ourselves catching up with a couple of the things that we were left with at the end of the second issue. One, Thor is still trapped wherever he's trapped. Right? We catch up with a character who's still a mystery to us. You know, we don't know who this character, this masked character is with the Red Hood, right? It's not the Red Hood, but the character has a mask. We also find that the demon Belasco in Limbo, not hell, but in Limbo, has something to do with the disappearance of Thor. And Jane Foster has been tasked with finding out what happened to Thor. Now we have a big battle between Belasco and Jane surprisingly is at a disadvantage. I'm like, Belasco, really, against the basic against the God of Thunder? But Jane is able to turn the tide because not because of Mjolnir, but because of her all weapon.
Wait, I'm sorry. You said Belasco.
Oh no, Sim. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think when I think of Limbo, I think of Belasco.
Yeah, fair.
So I meant Sim. I apologize, folks. I see big purple guy, and I should say Sim, but the second Limbo comes out of my mouth, I say Belasco. But in any event, getting back to this story, this story is being told in tandem with, you know, what would seem to be a story for the pages of Thor, which is a gigantic attack on Asgard that has the defenders of Asgard reeling, right? But the pages of Thor are filled with a Hulk crossover right now. So that's probably why this is happening in the pages of this little series. But at the end of the day, we get Runa, the parallel Valkyrie to Tessa Thompson's character, showing off. But ultimately, the forces that are allied and rallied against Asgard, including the former curse, now restored to be Algrim the Strong, are getting the upper hand. They have definitely benefited from having Tyr, the Asgardian god of war, on their side. And we end this issue with a pretty interesting cliffhanger between Jane and someone that many Marvel characters would affectionately and jokingly call Goldilocks. And I'll leave it at that. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I mean, you know, his name's in the title, so there is always that. So, which also lends lends a question, because you brought up the fact that the part of this could have been in the pages of Thor, and found myself wondering while I was reading this, like, where and or how does this fall in relation to that book and what's going on there? Like, obviously, like you said, the whole Hulk versus Thor thing, I guess, is still going on, and I totally forgot about that somehow. But what happens at the end of it, like, had me questioning. It was like, so wait, is that actually who that is, or is that like a variant of that person who just happens to look the same as the current version of that character, or like what is happening? Especially with what they say to Jane Foster in the last panels of that book and of this issue. So it's got me questioning a couple of things, but at the same time, like where is this in relation to that? In addition to that,
right? Right. We're just past the midpoint of the story.
Right.
The next issue is going to be the penultimate. So we're going to be setting up, a finale in the next issue. So we'll see where the story goes next issue. Hopefully it pays off.
Right.
Next up is Ms. Marvel Wolverine #1. It's written by Jody Houser with art by Zay Carlos, colors by Eric Arciniega, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So, if you have not yet watched the Ms. Marvel Disney Plus show, I'm going to mildly spoil it, simply because for the people that did actually watch the Disney Plus Ms. Marvel show, seeing Ms. Marvel cross over with the X-Men should not be a surprise to you. It'll be a surprise to everybody else,
Right.
but it won't be a surprise to people who watch the show.
Specifically, a couple of them in that.
Right. Very quickly, this is a run-of-the-mill crossover because the X-Men are under attack while Ms. Marvel comes in as an innocent bystander and proves to be a helpful bystander. There is a nice little reunion between Ms. Marvel and Cyclops because they both served together on the Champions because of time travel shenanigans.
And there's also the re-teaming up of her and Wolverine from the which they mention here because in the beginning of the first volume of Ms. Marvel, there was a team up between her and Wolverine there.
Right. And there is a continuing story between these Ms. Marvel and blank crossover issues. These Ms. Marvel and blank like one-shot issues.
Right.
They're a bunch of one-shots, but they're all tied together. So it's really a series.
So and there's another book that came out this week that I'll talk about that is doing the same thing, and I don't understand why they didn't just call it a team up book. Like basically like Ms. Marvel team up. They've done it before, or like why they didn't just do that as opposed to doing this. I know they've done these particular types of one-shot crossovers centered around a character before, but it's slightly kind of annoying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of them end up being good, but it's like, okay, I get it. These are new #1s, and you can kind of push them off that way, but they're connected, and therefore you might as well just either make it a miniseries and just number them sequentially, or call it a team-up book and do it that way. That's just my nitpick. Outside of that, potential click of the week for me, I dare say, because it was kind of fun.
It was definitely fun. I don't know if I would go so far as to make it a click as to make it a click of the week candidate, but it was definitely fun.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see. I miss having a regular Ms. Marvel book.
Yes, same.
And I miss seeing the character, and obviously I'm not a fan of the direction that the MCU version of the character is going to go in, but I just miss seeing the character on the pages of the comics that I read because she was always a nice little breath of fresh air. So any dose of Kamala Khan in my comics is always welcome.
Indeed.
Anyway, next up for me is Predator #1. This is not a Dark Horse book, folks. This is a Marvel book. It's written by Ed Brisson with art by Kev Walker, colors by Frank Darmada, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So this is an all new, all different Predator. And this story is set in the relative near future, right? Only 25 years, roughly 25 or 26 years into the future from where we are today. And lots of things have changed, but one thing that hasn't is the Predator being a pain in the neck to a bunch of humans. So this story deals with a character who's looking to turn the tables on the Predator for having done this character wrong in the past. And it's a really good jumping off point for any reader who is, like me, just familiar enough with the Predator lore to jump in and not necessarily need to have read all the Dark Horse books or watched all the movies that we don't care to watch. I mean, I freely admit I never watched the Danny Glover movie all the way through. Right, Predator 2. Never watched it all the way through. I don't think I've ever watched any of the other sequels all the way through. And, I was entertained, by this. The Kev Walker art on this is very, very solid. Ed Brisson does a good job of setting the stage for a little mini universe of Predator stories here in this particular timeline. I anticipate that we're going to see different renditions of the Predator and Prey story, much like we've already gotten with the Prey movie. I don't think we're going to be following this particular protagonist throughout the entire run of the story. I think they're going to tell different Predator-based stories here, but we'll see how this plays out. This is just the first issue of probably many Predator stories to come.
And
but
probably going to be AVP lead-in somewhere down the line.
Possibly. I like this, and this is actually a candidate for Click of the Week to me because I enjoyed just reading it as a whole.
I had to check it out. Brisson in action seems to be his wheelhouse, so I'm kind of curious to check this out.
Alrighty. Next up is Punisher number 5. It's written by Jason Aaron with art by Jesus Saiz, inks by Paul Azaceta, colors by Dave Stewart, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So if you have not yet jumped on this admittedly odd recontextualizing of the Frank Castle character, by putting him into the role of being the leader of the Hand, the cult of ninjas, originally based in Japan, enemy of Daredevil and Elektra. If you're not a fan of that, I understand. I'm willing to see where this goes because at the end of the day, it involves some of the core basics of the Frank Castle character. There's definitely a little bit of retconning here that's happening because we're getting some flashback stories being told of Frank Castle's upbringing, his childhood, his time up to his enlistment in the Marine Corps, and his predilection for violence as opposed to other means of conflict resolution. So, whether or not what's been teased in this issue is actually true, whether or not Frank has been under the influence of the beast that has been behind the power and longevity of the Hand is still up for grabs. We still don't know. But one particular aspect of the story is the means by which the Hand continue to exert their heavy influence and control over Frank. I'm not going to spoil it here. I know that Roddykat's probably not going to ever look at this, but I don't want to spoil it for the people who may in fact try to pick this up. Why, it's a pretty convincing reason why Frank is under their influence, but, some of it is, we're starting to see some of the cracks in the amount of influence the Hand has over Frank. But, Frank is a soldier. This is a supernatural ninja cult, and there's only so much Frank can deal with, can do against that, because he's definitely out of his element here in the story. So, without going deeper into what actually happens in this issue, I feel like I'm still invested in seeing how this plays out. If you're reading Daredevil, it's interesting to see if this will eventually cross over into Daredevil because of the parallel tracks that these characters are on and what their ultimate goals are. The Olympian god of war, Ares, is playing a role in this, and it's just one supernatural thing after another, which throws the whole Punisher story out of whack. He's not out here killing mobsters, but at the end of the day, he's still He much like Logan is one of the best at what he does, and he does that very well in these issues by Jason Aaron. So I'm gonna keep up with this book and see what comes of it. Last but not least for me is X-Men Legends #1. It's written by Roy Thomas with art by David Wachter or Watcher. I don't know if I have that name correct. I don't know if I copied this from Roddykat and it was a typo.
I think it is Watcher.
No kidding.
Because I'm confirming. Oh wait, no, it is Wachter. It's Wachter on the cover.
Right, because I remember the name Wachter. So when I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, that's got to be a spell check thing.
So that is a typo. Okay.
It's not a big typo because, like I said, if you type this into something that like has autocorrect, it probably changed it to Watcher. So art by David Wachter, colors by Edgar Delgado, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So this, much like all of the previous X-Men Legends book, is an in-continuity plug-in retcon issue where the creators who are most familiar with that era, who had stories to still tell but found for whatever reason a roadblock ahead of them that didn't let them tell this continuing part of their story, are now able to put these stories into print and into circulation to help fill in what are perceived gaps. This story fills in at least part of the gap between Incredible Hulk 181 and the next appearance of Wolverine, which is Giant Size X-Men #1. I want to say X-Men number 95, but no, it's actually Giant Size X-Men #1. And for anyone familiar with Wolverine's first appearance, he first tussled with both the Hulk and the Wendigo, and we find ourselves, I guess this is after issue 182, because if you look at issue 182 of the Incredible Hulk, Wolverine basically, bids the Hulk adieu, right? It's pretty non-violent. So I guess Roy Thomas had a different way of telling the story, and Wolverine and the Hulk do not bid each other farewell fondly in this issue. And we find out that Wolverine is then sent on another mutant ops. I don't want to say black ops, but a mutant ops mission to the United States with another Canadian mutant operative, who I think is a new character.
No, he was
not a new character.
No, he was an X-Men villain prior to Giant Size.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I never bothered to look it up.
Yeah.
I was up late last night reading all these books, folks. I was not in the mood to do any sort of extra legwork, and I apologize. I'm usually more well informed. I think I was tired from binging Paper Girls and Sandman.
That's
more
fine.
Sandman, because I had finished Paper Girls, I think, the day before.
Hey, you can't have everything in mind, so it's all good.
Right. But bottom line is the issue ends with this mission finding both this Jack O'Diamond's character and Wolverine face to face with a ragtag group of mutants who are all familiar to us, but they normally don't hang out together. And I'll leave it at that. Roddykat, what do you have to add?
Yeah, no, they don't. In fact, I think I ended up calling them the Brotherhood of Evil X-Men, even though they're not all evil X-Men.
Right.
But that should give you a little context into some people that shows up. Yeah, I was like, this is kind of weird. I enjoyed reading this. I was like, because this is not the first time X-Men Legends has been a thing. I think didn't Legends start off with like just reprints, or that was X-Men Classic?
Mm-mm.
Or what?
No, Legends. If you like, I bought a couple of Legends issues. If I recall, I specifically remember like some X Factor fill in the gap stuff by Walt and Louis Simonson.
Right. I mean, I know X-Men Legends has been a thing before, but I was trying to remember. It was like, no, X-Men Classic was the one that was doing the reprints.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So had to get that straight in my own mind. Either way, yeah, I'm down to read some stuff. Sometimes, like as we have been saying, these new / retconned old stories, some of them can be a bit much, but we've been reading a bunch of them in the past few weeks anyway, so it doesn't matter. I don't know. This one was kind of fun and kind of tread some ground that I was familiar but slightly not familiar. Like that, I had to look up that Jack of Diamonds person because I was like, "Who the heck?" I thought it was a new person myself until I did some background.
I was like, "Who? Seriously?"
Right. Yeah. So I was like, "Oh, okay." They went up with the first 5, the original 5.
Right. And you know what's funny? What's funny is I was like, wait a second. So we have a Jack of Hearts and now we have a Jack of Diamonds. That means we still have 2 suits left.
Right. And there was that. I did think it was like, wow, it's like, what are they going to go through the whole suit or not? Is it going to be like whatever that the Royal Flush game from DC, which I know there's never been. Right. So, but nevertheless, yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it. I'm looking to see what else comes out of these of this run. Because I think we're getting some Claremonts again. Because, you know, going back to what you were saying, explaining this book, some people did not get to finish their stuff. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, Claremont famously didn't finish some things for one reason or another. He's got
an Extreme X-Men book coming out. Come on, Claremont. You know, give us a break.
Right. Anyway. Is that it for you?
All right. That is it for me. You're up.
Alrighty then.
I was gonna say you only have a few now because we had a lot of books in common.
Pretty much, yeah. I only got like 4. So I Am Batman number 12 is my next book. As I pulled up the cover. So we get a Batman and the Question team up. So it's Jace Fox and Renee Montoya. Specifically, and not the original recipes of either of those characters. Actually, I don't even think the original Question is alive anymore. And I think there was a story about that a couple of years back that I think I tried to read. Either way, it doesn't matter. So yeah, Renee Montoya, as of last issue, is in New York. She has taken the guise of the Question because I guess she's trying to see if this Batman is not necessarily worthy of the title, but you know, kind of trying to see who he is, because sometimes that's what the Question, as Lucius Fox says in this issue, you know, the Question, you know, Question's character basically, as opposed, in addition to whatever case that they're working on at the time. So there is that. But yeah, so it's a team up between, like I said, Batman and the Question. They end up reopening the case, a case from the beginning of, I guess, this volume in the guise of Anarchy's murder, which happened. So during the course of that, like I said, they're kind of looking to reopen that case and tying it to things that are going on right now with the current governor. Current mayor of New York, and some things around him and people around him that have not necessarily been on the up and up. And of course, there's a little bit of not necessarily police corruption in here, but you know, there's in somewhat of, some would say, ripped from the headlines. It's like, yeah, we had this one police chief, commissioner, whatever, who was, you know, whose words that were not too glowing upon groups of people end up coming out, and that ended up being a thing. But that's not the part they're dealing with at this point. So yeah, like I said, this whole issue is kind of them teaming up, and weirdly enough, Jace let the Question, who he's never met before, have access to his more access than you think you would in a first meeting with someone you didn't know too much about, because I think they go to their newly acquired headquarters, or the Batman's newly acquired headquarters, for a little powwow, and meets his man in the chair and all that kind of good mess. So I was like, that's something you'd think you wouldn't do right off the bat, but nevertheless, it happens. And circle back to the creative team. It's written by John Ridley, art by Christian Deuce, colors by Rex Locus. which that's also a typo, and letters by Troy Pateri. There we go. Next up, Nubia, Queen of the Amazons, number 3. Pink. I was about to. I have some variant covers on some of these books, and I was going to plop up, but we'll may share of that one. Written by Stephanie Williams, pencils by Alita Martinez, inks by Mark Morales, John Livesay, and Alita Martinez. Colors by Alex Guamarez, and letters by Becca Carey. So the crux of this issue is that Nubia, Yara Flor, Hawk Girl, and a group of Amazons are dealing with an unresolved, as I say in my notes, an unresolved link to Nubia's past, who happens to be stirring up some issue in the name of vengeance, and leading. And also, I guess, also have something to do with following the goddess segment, or the goddess segment, which Nubia in her previous incarnation, or in her previous life, did until she was taken out. Like I said, this is pretty much I guess it doesn't necessarily deal with it because they end up getting in a fight, and I don't think it's over after this, but it just happens to come up. I mean, it comes up as a thing, and probably going to go come up as a thing in the next couple of issues as well. But toward the end, I guess we'll find out. But also, Nubia's dealing with the fact that, hey, while they were on this tour, a bunch of property and whatnot got messed up, so people have to clean it up, so they're not looking like they're a problem coming into man's world. So there is that. Next up, Captain Carter, number 5 of 5. So this is the last issue of this book. Pink. There we go. Written by Jamie McElvey, art by Marika Cresta, color artist Matt Miller, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So, like I said, it's the last issue. Peggy Carter. This is not the same Peggy Carter that is in the current issues of Captain America. Again, this is Captain Carter akin to who showed up in What If. May or may not be in the same universe as that one. I'm not entirely sure. They never really defined that. But nevertheless, in this particular issue, she kind of has a well, she doesn't quite, but let's just say there's kind of a Captain America Winter Soldier-esque plot going on in this, in that she thought she was she was unfrozen. She's now in the present day. She thought Hydra was still around, but it turns out that it was a big plot and a ruse with some shadow government figures. Well, so much shadow is then there are vampires also involved, so there is that. Yeah, indeed. It's actually been kind of fun, but she's also
I'm
been
enjoying having this Buttons and Mindy sound drop now.
It has been.
It's been too long. Like we've been doing the show too long with like my expanded sound effects to not have that. I'm sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
You're good. You're right. But yeah, this miniseries has kind of been this version of Peggy Carter as Captain Britain, Captain America, Captain Carter rather, trying to adjust to modern day life and finding that she doesn't feel like she has her place in it until certain thing comes up. But it's like I said, it's a plot and a ruse by government officials in the background, and again, who happen to be vampires. And she found herself being framed for murder and put in jail at the outset of last issue. And in coming into this issue, her friends that she has met, and including one version of Tony Stark, Elizabeth Braddock, who has been hiding her mutant powers up until she's revealed them in this issue, and her neighbor, who's not Sharon Carter, but a young lady named Harley, and this other government official go into this vault-like prison, let's just say, to get her out. Which happens, and like the story, that happens, and the bad guys get taken out, but there still leaves, I guess, a little something to kind of come back to, if they choose to. Not necessarily. I mean, this has been wrapped up, but like if they wanted to make another story out of something, like they could probably put something together in this with the all the players in line outside of the bad guys. But yeah, this was kind of enjoyable. There was something else I was going to say about this, but I can't remember what it is, so we're just going to push on. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. There was a pretty much a 1980s movie montage at the end of like kind of where are they now that I found kind of amusing. So there was that. Let's see. My last book for me is Avengers and Moon Girl #1, which just like the Miss Marvel Wolverine is a similar part of this is the second issue actually of a set of shots that are surrounding Moon Girl and some other set of characters. And boy, do a lot of characters show up in this particular issue. It's written by Mohale Mashigo, art by it's him, Dio, or her Dio, I don't know, but it's Dio, folks. Yes. Anyway, art by Dio Neves, Salva Espin, and Bruno Oliveri. Color artist Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So yeah, the last issue, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur have been separated. Moon Girl's been trying to find her. The last issue was it was a team up between Moon Girl and Miles Morales, which led to a certain point. And in this point, we have. So it says Avengers and Moon Girl, but realistically, it's like Captain Marvel and a bunch of Wakanda people, and some Wakanda people, up until the end of this issue where some X-Men show up. So it's like kind of Captain Marvel's shepherding around because they found out that Devil Dinosaur may or may not be on the moon. For some reason, there's some clones of Devil Dinosaur running around that Lunella ends up help wrangling between last issue and this issue, in her trying to find Devil Dinosaur. Like I said, a couple of X-Men come into play at the end of this, which leads into the next issue with the team up between Lunella and the X-Men. And we also, most importantly, get to see the big bad guy of this miniseries, which, if you think about cloning and animals and scientific endeavors of that nature, you kind of get a figure of who that might be. Because there are not too many people that kind of deal with that stuff in the Marvel Universe. So, but you can think of one high example.
Yeah, I was about to say, someone who's got the high ground.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. As to who that might be. Someone who's going to show up in the MCU at some point soon, also, by the way.
Right. You know, we can't underestimate his power. Don't try it.
Exactly. So,
folks, it's been a long month, basically.
yeah, but this issue in itself is kind of fun. Like I said, there's some shenanigans to be had in a way. Because there's the conceit that leads Lunella and her family to Wakanda to further the plot along was interesting enough. And what happens with the clone that they do have with them to try to study, and the royal gardens is kind of amusing, which made a particular royal family member quite upset. It was kind of funny, but it like I said, it was fun without going into too much of it. But there was a lot of people that showed up during the course of this issue, and I suppose looks to, just like with the Ms. Marvel Wolverine book, also a bunch of people kind of come in and out of the issue. And like I said, going into the next one, we have two in particular, one of which who was in that Ms. Marvel Wolverine book, and their name was in the title, by the way, shows up at the end of this as a factor. So we'll see where that goes in the next issue of this thing, which I assume is probably, as these have tended to go, they're usually like 3 issues of this thing. So I think the next issue of Moon Girl and X-Men is probably going to be the last one of this crossover one-shots. And that, folks, is it for me. Kliqs of the week.
Alrighty, Kliqs of the week.
We did get a couple of Kliqs.
Yeah, we have. I was about to say we have Kliqs from every member of the Comic Book Chronicles today.
Yeah, and as I recount them all right now, as I try to make some notes in the background. Let's see. First one we got is Tim's was A.X.E. Justice. Not Justice. I'm about to say Justice League. A.X.E. Judgment Day #2 was Tim's Kliq. And I think I did mention he said he didn't watch Paper Girls yet, but he added it to his list. Back up here.
Yeah, I was about to say I already clicked like on that, so yeah, I acknowledge that.
Yeah. So yeah, he didn't say anything else more about that. And Dirt's Kliq is A Town Called Terror #5, which I believe you, Agent 70, said was an Image book.
Correct.
Does he say anything about that? No, he doesn't really. So yeah, that's it.
Cool. So I'll tell you what my 2 books are, and I've already said that. Said both of. I've mentioned both of them as potential Kliqs of the week for me. One of them is Predator #1 by Ed Briss and Kev Walker and friends. The other one being A.X.E. Judgment Day #2 to second at Tim Dog 98. So I'm kind of in between those two. Do you have a solid pick for yours?
I do not have a solid Kliq. It's kind of between Ms. Marvel and Wolverine. I don't know. Like Ms. Marvel and Wolverine was one. Avengers almost became one.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing Spider-Man is actually kind of one. But yeah, it's kind of teetering between those. Judgment Day is definitely up there also because, man, there's a lot going on there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one reason why I'm leaning towards it. I'm still thinking though.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure. Like I can safely say that there has been some good things I've read. You know, whether the equalizer meter brings them up over others is a thing. Outside of the ones that I've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, actually, I'm probably going to go with Ms. Marvel and Wolverine. Like I said, I thought that was a fun thing, even though it was kind of breezy.
Cool.
So.
Cool. I think I'm going to second Tim's choice of A.X.E. Judgment Day #2. Okay. Although I really did enjoy that first issue of Predator. I think it probably helped that I was fresh off of watching Prey and reading this book too. So I think that definitely primed the pump for me in reading this book. But I'm going to go with A.X.E. Judgment Day #2, and second, the choice of Kliq of the Week by @TimDog98. Make sure to follow him on social media, and you'll see him writing up a bunch of articles on comicbook.com.
Sure, we'll talk about that again later. Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking out that Predator book, because it was a curiosity that I didn't get to, much like when the Alien books started coming about. Anyway, we're going to get into the news section, but first, let's get an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night, for those of you who choose to imbibe, is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torrontés, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Have you ever tried an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your taste and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink wines through CSPN. Do it today. And now we get into the news. We should probably try to rapid fire the news too.
Oh, of course. I mean, yeah, we got that. We got that.
Because we both read a lot of books this week.
Yeah, we got that. Idris Elba and Deadpool 2 director team, we apparently are going to collaborate on a Netflix movie for Dark Horse. So if your bingo card is out there, I'm sure that'll fill up most of them. Per The Hollywood Reporter, the new film is based on the Dark Horse comic by series by Matt Kent, Wilfredo Torres, Nayoung Kim, and Nate Payekos. And I guess this book is called Bang, because you got to put that, that punctuation on it. Kent will adapt the film alongside screenwriter Zach Oskowitz, and it's produced by Elba, Lech 87 North's Kelly McCormick, and Dark Horse's Mike Richardson and Kelly Goldberg. Excuse me, Keith Goldberg. And it says here, Bang will follow a terrorist cult that attempts to bring forth the apocalypse using a brainwashing novel series. Sure. Okay, next up.
Next up, in news that I had absolutely no familiarity with, the winner of RuPaul's Drag Race, Shea Coulee, is set to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the upcoming Disney Plus series Ironheart. Listen, all I could say is, who? Because, I'm looking at this name like, you sure that's not Dave Coulier? It's Shea Coulee, but I know it's a stage name, right? So at the end of the day, according to Deadline, Coulee has boarded the cast of Marvel Studios' Ironheart in an undisclosed role. Coulee joined series lead Dominique Thorne, who plays Riri Williams, as well as the likes of Hamilton's Anthony Ramos and Solo Star Wars Stories' Alden Ehrenreich, whose roles are similarly being kept under wraps. Okay.
Yeah, I saw.
Shea Coulee is the drag identity of Jaren Kaye Merrill. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, young Han is. I saw a rumor where he might be playing. Did it say Killian from the Iron Man thing, or something? I can't remember actually. So, Stane's son, Zeke.
Oh, Zeke Stane. Okay.
Yeah. But that's a rumor, so that hasn't been confirmed or anything. But I was like, that'd be interesting if that's the case. Because she also built a. No.
No, I was just gonna say they might bring more extremists back.
Possibly, quite possibly, yeah. Next up, though, speaking of Ironheart, set photos confirm major Marvel villain debut, and also reveals Riri Williams' version 1 armor. So we find out that apparently because of set photos, Anthony Ramos is possibly playing the Hood. And there has been a little discussion about this set photos, because if you're watching the video, you can see it right now. He looks like personally, he looks like not an Iron Man, a Doctor Strange variant. Or
really?
someone from that liking. Yeah. I mean, for those that don't know, the Hood is named because he has a hood that's magical, and he goes around, shooting folks. Not a nice guy. But like I said, the set photos kind of look like, he could have been then Doctor Strange with that get up. But hey, it's just me. And
it's interesting. I was about to say, hold that thought. It's interesting that they would use this vehicle as a way to introduce another magical character. Mm-hmm. Even though the Hood is like semi-magical, because it's just the Hood that's magic. He's just a 2-bit Hood, literally. And but at the same time, it's a magical concept. So it's interesting that they would use the Ironheart show as a vehicle. Obviously, there's the contrast between high tech and the magic. But my understanding also, I don't know if you have a story on this. I did read something where they're going to introduce some sort of variation on Riri's second current armor, which is more alien, and maybe they might bring in more magic into it, as opposed to making it alien.
So I think that's what this second that is in this article. Because if you're watching the video version, you're seeing a version of her armor that does indeed look kind of mechish. And not like her comic book armor, but it wasn't going to anyway, because that's kind of how the MCU gets down. So, but yeah, I think that is what they're going for with this particular piece.
Alrighty.
Next up,
Mark Ruffalo's Hulk will get a Marvel Studios Legends Disney Plus special. So this is, ahead of his appearance in She-Hulk. And so this is basically a docuseries that the Marvel Studios Legend series are a bunch of 5 to 10 minute mini documentaries covering the history of these characters or objects within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, highlighting some of their most significant moments and providing a refresher for casual fans in advance of a new release. If you are listening to this podcast, you are not a casual, but it might prove to be a refresher anyway.
It might be. But yeah, and I think that is out. I can confirm, because I think I did see. I saw that on social media that this is out already. So if you have Disney Plus, you can go ahead and check it out. I am also slightly curious about this, because from the beats we know that this version of the Hulk is going through, and what they're setting up in She-Hulk that has nothing to do with this particular version of the Hulk. I'm curious if they're going to put that part in. I mean, obviously this is more Mark Ruffalo Hulk centric, and that part has to do with Abomination, which has nothing to do with that. But I'm very curious about that. Anyway, speaking of She-Hulk, Mark Ruffalo and Tatiana Maslany's instant chemistry inspired She-Hulk changes. So, head writer Jessica Gao and director Kat Corio, who are also executive producers for the show She-Hulk Attorney at Law, recently shared some background on the two stars' chemistry during a Television Critics Association panel. It's quote, when we watched you guys, it really felt like, you are cousins who've been bickering for years at every family reunion, says Gao. To the point where you two inspired additions to the script So which basically says that so they hit it off so well and the chemistry was so good that they added some more stuff between them to the show. That being said, and it also led to the building out the montage that's in the trailer. So cool. Next up, so this is an updated article here that had a promo for She-Hulk, which at first blush seemed to quietly introduce the Avengers superhero comic book quote-unquote boyfriend, but apparently it was later found in the trailer that this obscured figure that was thought to be Jack of Hearts, spoiler alert, is actually classic Daredevil villain, the Matador. Neither Marvel Studios nor Disney have confirmed the character's identity, but the costumes are nearly identical to, for the Matador. So we'll see how this plays out. She-Hulk comes out next week. Yep. So it's not, we've said this before, there's a lot of MCU-ification in the comics, and the She-Hulk, current She-Hulk miniseries is no different because Jack of Hearts is in there. So I'm not making any excuses for whoever thought this was the case, but I'm just saying I can see where something like that could be construed. Like, even though I'm sure there was
you could jump to that conclusion pretty quickly based on what you saw, I presume. I haven't looked at it, but I would guess.
Yeah, because I didn't see this, so I don't know if that was the case or not. So, plus I feel like there was a telltale sign if you saw enough of the character to distinguish the two, or at least distinguish if you know what Jack of Hearts looks like. I should say that would distinguish him from this other character. But who's to say? Next up. Eternals 2, Patton Oswalt seemingly announces the Marvel sequel to the Eternals. So during a recent appearance on the Today Show, Patton Oswalt discussed the Eternals mid-credit scene where he and Harry Styles appear as Pip Patrol and Arrow Star Fox. Spoiler alert. He says they have announced there's going to be an Eternal sequel. Oswalt said Chloe Zhao is going to direct it, so hopefully there's going to be more adventures of Star Fox and Pip. Marvel has in fact not announced an Eternal sequel as of yet, meaning Oswalt may have made the announcement prematurely, which has happened with another property recently, by the way, or is speculating based on his insider knowledge.
Seriously, snipers, stand down. Stand down. No need to take out Patton Oswalt.
So here.
Oh no! The Marvel snipers. Stand down.
So here's the thing. It should stand to reason that there should be a sequel given the way that Eternals ended. That's all I'm gonna say about that part. Now, whether
it makes all the sense.
Right. Now, that kid's, whether he did indeed prematurely let the cat out of the bag, or he just kind of, I mean, that's also a good way to put it out there to be like, hey, I kind of want this to happen to be the case,
Manifest it.
Exactly.
Manifest it.
And that being said, like I said, the other case that I was talking about was, I don't know if you saw this, Rosario Dawson had basically went out there and said that, yeah, they're doing another Punisher thing. That's coming up, and then she had to end up walking that back.
Right.
So things like that kind of happen sometimes. the snipers do end up coming out at times.
Right.
Anyway, next up.
So the Andor release, we know, had initially been pushed back just a touch, but now we have the release schedule for the entire season 1 of Andor, which has been confirmed to be the first of 2 seasons. So the first 3 episodes of the first season of Andor will premiere on Wednesday, September 21st, and each following episode will premiere on each following Wednesday up to and through Wednesday, November 23rd. So you're basically going from Wednesday, September 21st all the way through Thanksgiving.
Yeah, not only that,
with Andor.
Yeah, 12 episodes at that.
Mm-hmm.
So, as opposed to the 6 we've been getting for other stuff like Obi-Wan and whatnot. Actually, I think that's probably one of the only ones from Star Wars that's gotten like that. Now that I think about it. Anyway, yeah, there you go. Excuse me. Archer season 13 trailer has been released. I did not know the show was still going on. I love the show, but it's kind of funny. Season 13, like I said, is coming up on FFX on August 24th. And yeah, most of the cast is coming back. As we know, Jessica Walters has passed. So as far as I know, they may have addressed that already, or will address that during this season. Don't know. But it looks like they also have a slate of guest stars coming up, including some folks that have been on the show before. So that's cool. Next up, in an article by our very own @TimDog98, the long-rumored Supergirl movie that would have spun out of the Flash feature film may be the latest casualty of Warner Brothers Discovery's penny pinching. Ezra Miller's The Flash is reportedly the lightning rod that will kickstart an all-new DC universe, but one of the film's co-stars is Sasha Calle as Supergirl, the cousin of Superman. It's believed Warner Brothers had big plans for Supergirl with her own solo movie in development, but a new report appears to place Supergirl on the shelf alongside Batgirl, which is just about... Yeah, it's a whole thing.
There it is.
It's a whole thing. We'll get into. Well, we have gotten into it, so we don't necessarily. Need to go too
It's just
further,
continuing. That's the funny part.
Oh,
it just keeps going.
Yep, and that's what this next slate of news is about. Incidentally, I don't have this in the news, but I believe it was said that Blue Beetle movie is rumored to be still on tap at this point. There's no confirmation one way or the other, but that's the one that at least didn't That's not on the block anymore. The chopping block, that is. Next up, though, new Superman show still on Cartoon Network despite Warner Brothers cuts. The aforementioned Warner Brothers cuts. So, My Adventures with Superman producer Josie Campbell has confirmed that the DC animated series is still set to premiere on Cartoon Network next year, despite Warner Brothers and Discovery's decision to pull back on children and animated content and live action content at that. They didn't put that in. Campbell, writer of DC comic book series New Champion of Shazam, which I think I talked about last week, recently partook in an AMA on Reddit alongside Evan Doc Shaner, the artist of that said book, and confirmed that the show is still on tap. So, and adding, get ready. There you go. Next up, in news that I actually did not find out until I heard Kevin Smith talk about it on Fat Man Beyond with Mark Bernardin. His DC project, Strange Adventures, that was supposed to be on HBO Max, has also been canceled following Warner Brothers' merger with Discovery. So he talked about this on the Hollywood Babylon podcast that he is a part of, and also on the Fat Man Beyond podcast that he's a part of. And so he basically got a call from Eric Carrasco, who is the Supergirl writer, who told him that Strange Adventures is officially dead. So again... One show that is seemingly still going on is HBO Max's Green Lantern show. And in fact, there's a release date that seemingly has been revealed. Let's see, this is a Greg Berlanti joint. The show was put in development back in 2019. And it, according to this article, would become the most expensive DC TV series that has been created for Warner Brothers. Again, according to this article. Green Lantern received a series pickup in 2020 for 10 episodes with Seth Grahame-Smith as the showrunner. It says here to be an ensemble cast, which I think we knew about, and it looks as though Oh, it says according to Entertainment and the Identifier Registry, somebody on Twitter, the release window has been revealed to be sometime in 2024. And it says here that the Entertainment Identifier Registry is what many media companies are using in order to keep up with their content that gets released on various platforms. So, somewhat legit source, I guess. Until they change, until Warner Brothers slashes that, which I doubt Green Lantern would be the one that'll be into the knife. Just saying. Next up.
I would get these stories. All right, so check this. The Flash's Ezra Miller has allegedly been caught on camera burglarizing a home in Vermont. I mean, it's Vermont, yo. What the hell is... What are y'all trying to steal up there? Variety reports that Miller has been charged with felony burglary in connection with the incident in a small Vermont town of Stamford on May 1st. Man, it's a while ago.
Yeah, New Warriors is not around.
What happened?
The New Warriors weren't around.
Yeah, for real. State police... No, I thought it was Stamford, Connecticut.
Yeah, that was the connection to the show.
Hold on. Where's my, there we go. There it is. Variety reports Miller has been charged. State police reportedly received a burglary complaint from a residence on that evening of May 1st. While the homeowners were not present during the incident, multiple bottles of alcohol were allegedly taken from the home. After reviewing surveillance videos and statements from those affected, police determined there was probable cause to charge Miller. Police were finally able to locate the actor on the night of August 7th to formally issue them a citation, and Miller is expected to appear for arraignment in Vermont Superior Court on September 26th.
Boy, I'm getting too old for this shit.
Seriously.
Either that dude actually does have access to the Speed Force, or he's a teleporter, because all of these reports have been from wildly different areas that he's been seen in burglarizing. So he's becoming a super villain in his own right.
True.
People still somehow love him and pitying him. That's people.
No,
so
seriously,
stupid.
Man.
People so.
Your mother brought you up wrong, that's what it is.
Yeah, people are silly, but.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that, but it's also it's only certain people that get that treatment, and I'm not even gonna go into that. But
no, we're not even touching that one. I mean,
What you talking about, Will?
So,
actually, the next is going to be a continuation of what I was about to
go ahead,
talk about anyway. But I want to say before I go along, apparently Disney, according to this article on the side of this article here, Disney's Hulk special completely ignores Ed Norton's origin movie. So that answers the question I had earlier.
I was gonna ask. I was curious to watch that just to see if we see the Incredible Hulk.
Right, and that's the thing I was kind of wondering about. It's like, so are they going to actually do anything with that part? And then there you go. So, yeah. I mean, What If kind of did it. They just, but that was a different situation. Right. Anyway, back on track. The Flash is testing great, despite Ezra Miller's off-screen controversies, and this is according to an article from Deadline, I would guess. Yes, that Flash movie is still on track, even though he's been burglarizing places he's been doing shit left and right, y'all. But his movie,
I was about to say, it's not just burglarizing.
Right.
We're talking about like
harassment and
harassing and like grooming stuff. Oh my god, man! Seriously.
But his movie's still on track.
Hey, your mother brought you up wrong, that's what it is.
But yet, Batgirl gets canceled. Just saying. That's where you go back to the conspiracy.
Yeah, seriously, man. Damn! I got a bunch of these sound effects. I don't get to use that often. I have them on my reaction board, so I'm on this. Like.
He chose poorly.
Apparently he's also been he's been accused, he's been accused of leading a cult during his time in Iceland also. So that's another
oh my goodness.
Another thing going on here. This is so ridiculous. Let us move on.
Please. All right, am I up now? All right. So the DC movies will follow. No, DC will have a 10-year plan akin to Marvel's playbook, says David Zaslav, who is the Warner Brothers Discovery executive. He also addressed scrapping Batgirl saying our job is to protect the DC brand. Okay, lame.
Bullshit.
So I feel like, right, I get what Roddykat just said. He's not meaning to interrupt. He's just saying something that we're all thinking. But I feel like a previous DC executive, a Warner executive, said the same exact thing and they didn't do it. And then they decided to, quote unquote, make themselves director friendly, and then found that. Sorry, folks, I've had a bit of a relationship with Jack Daniel today,
and I haven't been drinking. I just went for it.
Right. I'm like, yo, they said the same shit like 6 or 7 years ago. They haven't done anything. They decided to go full on with this creator, quote unquote, director driven direction, and it never panned out. Now we're about to get 2 Joker movies with Poker Face leading one of them.
Well, the second of 2, we already got one, but yeah.
Right. Well, leading the second one, let's say.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they said they wanted to try this, but I guess they just did a half-assed job of it. And now, with the onset of the Warner Brothers Discovery merger, they're like, you know what? Let's give that another shot. That seems like an excellent idea.
Right. Because it works so well the first time.
Oh my gosh.
And they're scrapping stuff that shouldn't be scrapped in various states of completeness. For what reason? This still makes no sense.
And you know what's wild, right? And you know what's wild is that when I was listening to Fat Man Beyond, both Mark Bernardin and Kevin Smith mentioned something that I hadn't thought of before.
Okay.
What they mentioned is that, even though Captain Marvel really was just an okay movie, a lot of people went out to support it because it was the first superhero movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that had a leading female character.
Yep.
Don't you think that you would get the same outpouring of support for the first female Batman-centric character? Obviously, the first female lead character was Wonder Woman. But this is the Batman universe. There's a lot of Batman people, and Batgirl, especially in the Barbara Gordon iteration, is going to be very popular no matter who you cast as, in the role.
Right.
So give yourself a chance to make that money and to create that fan base.
Yeah.
That's what they said, and I found myself in agreement with them. I had not thought of it that way.
Right. I agree with that also. It makes logical sense, and if we know CEOs and folks like that don't always make logical sense. The bottom line is money, in most cases, and that just doesn't truck.
If that tax write-off is that lucrative, then I sort of understand it. But
there's no way in the world that's just it. That's just it. I'm sorry, especially with the movies that are I'm not saying it's not a part of it, but come on, to hinge on that with all the other stuff with what we just discussed still on the play.
But I think the deadline, I think there is a deadline, and I think the deadline to do that for the Flash movie, I think, is come and gone. I think that was the speculation this is just speculation that I'm saying secondhand from the Fat Man Beyond podcast. I did not bother to look this up. I think I was listening to it yesterday. I haven't had time. Have not had time.
I'm gonna go ahead and still say bullshit once more. So. Listen, and let that be for me.
It's not like you're disagreeing with me. It's just that we both have different ways of looking at it.
Right.
So.
Next up.
You got next.
Hey, speaking of HBO Max, the HBO Max's 45-day theatrical to streaming window is no longer Warner Brothers policy. This has kind of been a thing that's already been, slightly known, given what they've been doing. But I guess this is a confirmation. It says here that there's no longer a guarantee that Warner Brothers movies will make their way onto HBO Max after the 45-day theatrical release. In fact, I believe it says in this a report that is going to be on a case-by-case basis, which feels like that's what's been going on anyway. So, it is what it is on that. Just ball being dropped left and right with this thing. Or at least personally, from a consumer standpoint, the ball is being dropped left and right. If they do absolutely have some kind of cogent reasoning behind this nonsense, you know, is not being shown very well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there is personally, but anyway, next up.
So, in not unexpected news, in pretty much expected news, let's not do a double negative there. The media company HBO Warner Brothers Discovery announced that HBO Max, that its HBO Max app and the Discovery Plus app are going to merge in summer of 2023. They're going to launch a new service that's going to fuse those two together, and we'll see how all that plays out in summer of 2023.
Yeah. I mean, with that merger, I guess there's the expected, well, what are they going to do with the subscribers of HBO Max and probably the one or two people that Discovery Plus may or may not have. And then when there was that whole controversy, or not necessarily controversy, that's probably, for lack of a better word, that's what it was, that came out was saying whether there was something about whether women actually watch HBO Max in the first place. Because there was some,
really?
Yeah, I don't know, something that was going around social media about that. I can't remember the full thing.
I was about to say that if they're into Game of Thrones and watching that on like whatchamacallit on demand, I'm sure that they watch on HBO Max.
I mean, that was one of the things that came up, you know.
Yeah.
The talking back about it, but I mean, but it even goes farther than that. It's just it seems to be just a ludicrous ass thing to even for anyone to say, or if anybody of any note to say, if that was the case, you know,
right?
Because there's probably more people in general, men and or women, who's watching HBO Max for any amount of reason than anything on Discovery.
Yeah.
So none of it makes sense.
What's on Discovery Plus that you really need to watch if you don't already have the Discovery Channel on cable? It's for the people who, you know what it is. It's for the people who unplugged.
Sure, but again,
you know, they're trying to target the people who decided to cut the cord.
Right. You could have left that as what's on Discovery, and that could have said the same thing.
I mean, listen, one of my guilty pleasures is watching a bunch of rednecks make moonshine on the Discovery Channel. I'm like, look at these crazy rednecks go.
Right.
You know?
Fair enough. Fair enough. There are those guilty pleasures such as that on, I guess, something like that. Next up, though, HBO has a comedy about superhero movie making that's in the works, apparently. There is a greenlit pilot for The Franchise, which is a half-hour comedy about making superhero movies. They have nothing to go on, apparently. They have no nothing they have to go on to on that subject. I don't know why they would even be making this. But the pilot comes from Veep and Avenue 5 creator Armando Lanucci, and former James Bond director Sam Mendes. The premise for the pilot says it follows a hopeful crew trapped inside the dysfunctional, nonsensical, joyous hellscape of franchise superhero movie making. If and when they finally make the day, the question they must face is Hollywood's new dawn, or is this Hollywood's new dawn or cinema's last stand? And then it goes on from there. So you kind of get the feel of what they're going for there. Let's see. Yeah, like I said, and this just goes on. Some other people that are attached to this project, but not when this project may or may not be coming along. Because like I said, it's only a greenlit pilot, so whether it actually gets a series order, I guess we'll find out at some point.
Right.
Next up,
IDW Entertainment has officially entered a development deal with Anima, the leading animation studio in Latin America. Under this deal, IDW and Anima will develop and produce an adult animated series based on IDW Publishing's comic book series Brutal Nature, created by Luciano Saraceno and Ariel Olivetti. Brutal Nature centers on a collection of masks that transforms a young man into innumerable beasts and monsters. Okay.
Yeah. There's another article out there somewhere that's with some more deals, but that's for next week. New Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie releases first look clip. When is this coming out? Let's see. The Adult Swim announced that the team behind the series is returning for a new feature film meant to be released on home video, VOD, and HBO Max. There was a panel at the Adult Swim Festival block party. Doesn't say when this is coming out. Oh wait, November looks like. So yeah, if you were a fan of Aqua Teen Hunger Force, there's some more coming your way. Next up.
Netflix's upcoming live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender casts Momona Tamada from The Boys as Ty Lee. Okay.
Yep. Who?
I am not familiar. Yeah, listen. You know, I'm not familiar with either actress or character, so yeah, I guess who is appropriate.
I know the character. Don't know the actress. So I still got one up on you. Wait, I thought you watched Avatar.
I watched The Boys, so I don't recognize, you know, this character. I've not watched Avatar yet.
Oh, okay.
It's not even on my list.
I thought it was, but anyway, that's another discussion for later.
Yeah, The Last Airbender. That's a lot of stuff to watch, man.
Oh no, but it goes great. I mean, it's put that on your list. That's all I'll say. We're gonna get into Anime Corner now.
All right, here we go. We got a new little ditty for you guys for Anime Corner.
One Piece TV anime airs tie-in prologue to film Red, which is the name of the new One Piece film coming up. So the official website for the One Piece film Red anime film announced on Thursday that the One Piece television anime will air tie-in prologue episodes to the movie on August 14th, which, hey, that's coming up quite soon. And the 21st. Wow, both of those are birthdays of people that I know. Anyway, the episodes will depict moments that take place 10 years before the events of the film and will feature young Luffy and Uta with Shanks' red hair pirates. Young Nami and Zoro, as well as returning characters, will make an appearance. Episodes will show the Straw Hat crew making their way to Elegia, I guess, the island of music and setting for the film. So yeah. The film will open in Japan on Saturday. We'll have an IMAX screening, yada yada yada, and will end eventually come to Crunchyroll at some point. Yeah, sometime this fall. Next.
So Kaiju number 8 is one of the biggest manga series that has not yet been brought to the small screen in animation. However, it has been announced that an anime adaptation is on the way. Let's see, a release date is still a mystery though, and there are plenty of unanswered questions surrounding the upcoming show. So it has been announced, but there's not much else to that.
Yeah,
there is a first trailer though.
I had never heard of it up until recently, so go figure. Next up though, Bink. Bleach creator settles Orihime debate with heated comments. I'm just going to put here that, yeah, you know, some people don't like Orihime. I think she was mishandled, but I guess because she kind of comes off a certain way. And anywho, well, not Ikki in that way. Ikki is like, man, you could have done better with this character. Anyway, during the Twitter exchange, Tite Kubo had apparently retweeted a fan stating that while they loved Rukia of Bleach, they weren't too fond of Orihime, leading Tite to take the opportunity to clear the air, aka defend his kid. And then, quote, and then I saw the kid's tweet, and might have been shocking to normal Rukia fans, and said, I love basically what was just said, but it didn't give me any bad impressions of Rukia fans. And he goes on to basically say something like, readers don't have the privilege of changing the story, and hey, just, you know, blah blah blah, yakety smackety, but leave my kid alone. I'm paraphrasing there real quick. Next up.
Okay. All right, Bleach will be making its grand return to screens later this year with the final arc of the series. I had no idea. Bleach is on my list. All
Bleach
right.
is good. Yeah,
The
Bleach is
anime
good.
has added some new names to the cast for the 1,000-year Blood War arc, with the original run of the anime adaptation ending before series creator Tite Kubo ended the manga run of the series. Fans never quite got to see all of the massive battles that took place over the series' grand finale. That's why fans have been eager to see the series return to anime ever since its original cancellation, and now they finally get the chance to do so later this year. Okay.
Yeah. Bleach, like Naruto, has a filler arc or two that might put you off of the series at some point. I don't think it might not be as bad as that Bleach of as the Naruto one, but you will be able to decide that for yourself. I like Bleach. I still haven't finished. I still haven't finished the whole thing because it's also long.
Right, it's on my list. So the new anime means some new characters, especially the new names joining the cast for Bleach. 1,000-Year Blood War were announced through the series' official Twitter account and official website, and there's a whole bunch of them. So if you're a fan of this, good for you. It is on my list. I am still at the very earliest stages of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yep, and a couple of the opening themes are bangers. So personally, anyway. Link Click, the English dub reveals release date and voice cast. So the popular Donghua, which is Chinese animated series Link Click, is finally getting an English dub. I'd never heard of that genre before, but sure. According to Crunchyroll, the dub of the show's first episode, Emma, will premiere on the streaming service on August 8th, which has already passed, with the rest of the episodes debuting over the following weeks. Several members of the cast were announced along with the release date, most notably the people in this article who I'm not going to rattle off here. But there you go. If you know what that anime/manga is, you are one up on me because this is the first time I've heard about this. But it seems interesting because it's time traveling and photography, which, two things I'm interested in. Next up, at the Bungo Stray Dogs panel held at Crunchyroll Expo 2022, Bones president Masahiko Minami and producer Chiaki Kurakane revealed the latest trailer for Bungo Stray Dogs Season 4 alongside a brand new key visual and the announcement that the new season will premiere in January 2023. I don't think I have this on my list. No, you don't. You would. I have seen. I remember watching the first the first part of the season for this, and I thought it was pretty good. I never did revisit it because it did some. It did a jump, let's just say, that was interesting, but I never did go back to because I think it took a break between it coming back for. The rest of the first season, I never did go back to it, but I'm looking forward to revisiting this. I didn't know it got 4 seasons either because I knew it was like 2. So I'm looking forward to checking this, to finishing up and checking this out. It was a pretty interesting, from where it was anyway, story. Akira, Your Name, and more movies are coming to Crunchyroll. Excuse me. So let's see. The streaming service has been growing dramatically ever since it joined forces with Funimation and Sony. So that's where a lot of this is coming from. Crunchyroll announced during their industry panel during the Crunchyroll Expo that they'll be launching a new initiative that will add new movies to the streaming service every Thursday beginning on August 11th, which has just passed, and running through October. This not only includes major releases like the aforementioned Akira, but releases from massive franchises such as Free, Fairy Tail, Psycho-Pass, Code Geass, Black Butler, and Jujutsu Kaisen, which I believe Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is probably going to be in that lot. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. And more things. And there is a list of stuff, including the aforementioned Jujutsu Kaisen, which is coming on September 21st.
That's cool.
Yeah. That is
I haven't watched
service.
Jujutsu Kaisen 0 yet.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think I have through, other means.
Right. Yeah, same. So, but if you're watching the video version, you can see the list of stuff that is coming up until September. So, and I guess
I was able to watch My Hero Academia, the most recent movie, the superhero movie.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I did. Yeah, I think I mentioned it on the show like some weeks back.
You
You know,
might
like
have.
it was definitely like a month or two ago that I watched it. So
Right.
I was able to find a way to watch that, and it was fun. No, it's nothing earth shattering. It's out of continuity. You know, the OVAs that just came out on Crunchyroll are in continuity, even though they don't make any difference into the main story.
Right, and season 6 is coming. So wait, it is season 6, right? Yeah. So there you go.
Yep.
Next up.
Next up, I would get this story.
Of course you do.
Haikyuu is one of the biggest and best sports anime to ever hit television. And fans are never shy about their love of the series, Agent _70 included. Hinata and Kageyama have millions of fans to their names after all. With the manga now over, all eyes have been on the future, as many have wondered when Haikyuu would return to television, and now a mysterious countdown has gone live to the delight of fans, including myself. The whole thing cropped up online as the official site for Haikyuu in Japan began the ordeal. The new countdown is set to end on August 13th, so that is this Saturday. So we'll find out on Saturday what's up. So fans can expect some sort of announcement to be made. Given the manga status, fans are pretty certain this countdown has to do with the anime, and this tracks given recent reports. You know, we talked about it, I believe, on last week's show, that that some Japanese manga like fan news sites had reported that it's already been confirmed that the next season of Haikyuu is coming out. So I'm jazzed. I'm happy. I'm a giant fan. I wish Roddykat would watch this. I wish some of the other people on my anime advisory board would watch this, because it is such a great anime.
Wait, why haven't they watched it? I'm surprised, because from what you told me
it's
about that
sports
group.
anime.
Oh,
Because it's a sports anime that's not their sport.
Gotcha.
You know, like I've got a buddy who watched that basketball one,
Slam
but
dunk, yeah.
that one's a little too supernatural for me. I tried watching the first episode, but I was like, what the heck?
Oh, you talking about Slam Dunk?
No, it was the one that starts with a K.
Oh, okay. Anyway, go. Yeah.
Right. But the point is that, you know, it has some supernatural elements to it. I'm like, there's like the tiniest bit of like super player things going on in Haikyuu, but you know, there's not much to it. Like, it really is just a really fun sports anime. So I recommend it to anyone and everyone I can. And you know, like one of the longtime members, you know, pre-meeting all of you guys, you know, who was just an old family friend. He's younger than me, but he's been, you know, one of the main supporters of anime to me over the years, and he's never watched because he never was interested in sports anime at all.
Right.
So, you know, once I burned through Haikyuu, I'm like, you got to watch this. He's like, well, I've never really liked sports anime. I'm like, you'll like this one. So,
See, unlike my not watching dislike of sports ball in itself, there are some sports anime that I would check out. Like, I'm actually watching one now that I think about it. Actually sport. So I'm not above it. I will check this out at some point.
is it the baseball one?
No, actually, I have not watched. I don't think I've watched any of that one. Actually, there's a couple of those, so it could be either one. But no, it's a golf one actually. That's
okay.
Actually, it's a pretty amusing. I feel like there's probably another sports anime that I've actually watched at some point, but I don't remember what it is right off the bat. Anywho's,
ladies and gentlemen, Haikyuu is so good.
Yes, I have heard as much when it was when people were watching it in real time. So I'm not surprised.
So we're transitioning over to comic book news.
We are. One last bit of manga news, actually.
Oh, we do? Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't see
No, you're still good, because technically it is a nice bridge. Dark Horse announces a release date for Keep Your Hands Off Aizuken, Volume 5. So yeah, I don't know if some folks probably know Dark Horse is in the manga. It's been for quite some time, actually. But they've recently announced Volume 5 of the series that I just mentioned. The manga follows Asakusa and Mizuzaki as they try to create an anime. As they try to create an anime. And this volume follows their audio engineer, Domeki, as they explore a ruined clock tower. And Aizuken, has an exclusive screening set with their rivals. The story and art comes from Samito Owara, and it all sounds like a lot of fun according to this article. So, cool. Next up.
All right. I was about to say Dark Horse has a long history of distributing Americanized manga.
Yes.
That's, they were my source of the Americanized versions of Ghost in the Shell and one of my favorites, Lone Wolf and Cub.
Yes.
So, Dark Horse has long been in the manga business, manga distribution business, the Americanized version at least.
Which reminds me of that Humble Bundle set that I plunked down on a while back with all that in it. The Lone Wolf and Cub.
Right. Like the Lone Wolf and Cub, the Samurai Executioner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Next up, CBR has exclusively revealed that Mark Millar's new vampire series, Nightclub, is going to be sold to fans at an incredibly low price when it launches in December. So it's going to be an extremely low cover price. This book is going to be sold to fans for $1.99 an issue. Wow, that's a flashback.
Right, we haven't seen $1.99 price in probably upwards of 2 decades.
That's a long time, yo. $1.99 for a comic book. Wow.
So
good for him.
Yeah, really. I hope it pays off for him. Actually, yeah, we don't need to go into what's that about, but sounds like if it's your cup of tea, go check it out one way or the other.
Yep.
Valiant Entertainment reportedly lays off employees, sadly. I guess
that's no good.
Yeah, this is from comicbook.com. As reported by Bleeding Cool, revealing that senior editor Lisa Hawkins has also seemingly left Valiant. Let's see. Publisher Fred Pierce is reported to be among those who's along with the company, and a bunch of others. So, but according to this article, a bunch of others. So, that's sad when that tends to happen. So, hopefully they can land on their feet. Next up.
This news has spoilers for Flashpoint Beyond #4. Was that out last week?
I believe that's the case. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I'll look into that real quick.
Right. So DC's Flashpoint Beyond #4 sees an angry, hardened Dexter Dent officially become Robin, the Boy of Terror, making him even more dangerous than Jason Todd. So this is in a book by Jeff Johns, Tim Sheridan, and Jeremy Adams. So this was teased at the end of Flashpoint Beyond #3. So the Robin, the Boy of Terror, debuts in the issue in #4 after Dexter Dent sneaks into Thomas Wayne's Batcave and steals some equipment. So this is very much in the vein of earlier different Robins in the main DC universe, but now it's Dexter Dent, the son of Harvey Dent, and Gilda Dent.
Batman Bears lost his will, Joker got away. Oh, yeah, so I can actually confirm without even looking that this is from last week, because I remember I had this left over from last week's spillover.
Cover. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dark Crisis, still, a major DC superhero is severely traumatized after Deathstroke shot him. That would be Beast Boy, who got shot at the beginning of Dark Crisis, and apparently he's a...
I avoided spoiling this when I talked about it.
Right. And this was from a then preview of Dark Crisis #3, which we were talked about last week. As Agent 70 said, didn't really go over that part. But yeah, apparently he shook after, rightfully so. He's traumatized after being shot. So
ain't no such thing as halfway Teen Titans.
Yeah. Next up.
Here's another musical reference for you, folks. So Jon Kent, this is the son of Kal-El and Lois Lane, will face his biggest challenge in Death of Superman. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So in an interview with CBR at San Diego Comic-Con, Dan Jurgens revealed that he and the other creators behind the seminal series Death of Superman are working on a project celebrating the 30th anniversary of its debut, centered around Kal-El's son. In it, John will learn the history of Superman's defeat at the hands of Doomsday, at the same time facing a villain named Doombreaker, who is threatening Metropolis. Debuting in Death of Superman 30th anniversary special on November 8th of this year, Doombreaker is an entirely new villain with an as yet unrevealed connection to Doomsday. Jon is set to team up with his dad to fight this new threat, and it promises to be tough for the young hero in more ways than one. Okay.
I feel like you can't really say it's an entirely new villain if they're tied to a villain and almost named similarly to the villain of the last thing.
You know what?
I know. But
I know.
I was just like, that's okay, sure. Like,
It's a trap!
I know.
yeah, exactly. New in name only, and not even much of that. DC announces new Death of Superman special with original creative teams, which technically, I guess we already kind of went over that with that last article, so we can push on. Next up.
All right, Superman Jon Kent gave his boyfriend Jay Nakamura a new superhero suit and a ring in DC Superman Son of Kal-El number 14 by Tom Taylor and Clay Tormey. Obviously, this is spoilers. This is spoilers for this issue. I think this is also last week.
Wait, is that not this week?
So what he gets, I don't know. I don't have comic list in front of me. But yeah, what he gets is a new costume and a flight ring. I'm assuming it's a Legion flight ring.
I guess so. And when I first saw this article, I was like, wait, is it getting like a flash ring?
I'm assuming it's a Legion ring because it says flight.
Right. It is for this week. Issue.
Oh, so it is this week. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, none of us were reading it, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Next up.
One half of DC's Wonder Twins just leveled up their powers. This is a spoiler for DC versus Vampire, which the Vampire's book, which I think was probably from last week or something. This is issue number 8 of the series. Sees Supergirl steal Black Manta traveling to Australia by boat when they are set upon by Vampire Aquaman's forces. The whole world is looking for Supergirl, both vampire and humans, being that Kara Zor-El represents one of the last symbols of hope for humanity. And apparently, apparently a water tiger shows up, and that ends up being Jaina, who flexes her new powers obtained from her late brother in the series. So I guess she has the Wonder Twins powers, combined powers into herself in this book. Okay, next. Bless you.
Sorry. No, just coughing a little bit. All right, so a new DC webtoon series flips comics' secret identity trope. Vixen's adventures in New York shows the strength in trusting friends and family rather than pushing everyone away for their own safety. So this has spoilers for Vixen NYC number 12 ahead. So apparently the character decides to entrust her secret identity as a hero and her private identity to her friends as opposed to keeping it a secret, because you know what? It's a massive reversal of the usual secret identity trope.
Which is also weird, and this is one of those DC webtoon collaborations. And I also thought that her identity was public anyway. In certain versions, but I don't know what version this is, so irrelevant. Lego Minifigure Factory is available in the US. Hashtag take that, Hasbro. Lego has launched a beta for a new online Lego Minifigure Factory in the US. It's easy to use online tool that lets you configure a minifig in quite a few different ways, including their face, head, wear, torso, legs, and accessory. You can play around with it at the link in the article. The custom-made minifigures are $11.99. Again, still in beta, so it may not be available if you go to the link in the article. But nevertheless, at this point, and as long as this article has been out, it's probably fine. So yeah, if you ever wanted to make your own Lego minifigure of yourself or someone you know, hey, there you go. Next up.
Fans of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition will finally be able to explore Middle-earth in pre-written material with the new The Lord of the Rings roleplay. Free League Publishing revealed its latest 5th edition adaptation during Gen Con, acting as a second addition to its The One Ring role-playing game, based on the books by J.R.R. Tolkien and designed by Francesco Nepitello and Marco Maggi. The set includes everything players need to get started, along with the 5th edition based core rules. It contains 6 new classes, 6 heroic cultures from the land of Eriador, Middle-earth inspired adversaries, and detailed breakdowns of aspects of the world like its artifact, councils, and particular brands of magic. Let's see, pricing. All right, no pricing and no dates yet.
Right.
Just an announcement. Okay.
Yeah, Q1 2023 is about the most we got. But yeah, that was what I was alluding to earlier with the Lord of the Rings and D&D thing. So I don't know if your people would be interested in that.
I'll check. I'll see.
New Star Wars game has been announced. Fantasy Flight Games has announced plans to publish a new Star Wars deck building game. I'm just going to put that in there right off the top. The new Star Wars deck building game will be released in 2023 and is being designed by Caleb Grace, one of the lead designers of Marvel Champions, the card game, and Lord of the Rings, the card game. One of those I have in my possession. No other details were provided about the game other than the game will be a competitive PvP style game as opposed to a co-op style game, card game. You can check out the release teaser trailer and the article if you're so interested. And yes, I'm probably going to look for this. Next up.
Spider-Man gets his very own Batcave style headquarters from Lego. So in Lego's Attack on the Spider Lair set, it allows Marvel and Spider-Man fans to take home a home base for the hero similar to Batman's Batcave. So, you know, it's a little bit of Into the Spider-Verse here, you know, where Aunt May kind of has a spider cave for her version of Spider-Man in Into the Spider-Verse. So, you know, if anyone's interested in this, have at it.
Yeah, and no Death Star to build either, which is...
Yeah, I don't have any... I was about to say, I don't have any... kids who would be into Lego of the right age to get this for. I kind of miss buying these really expensive Lego sets for kids who would like this. I think their parents all hated me because they hated having Legos underfoot. But what are you gonna do?
That's understandable. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 Arcade Cabinet revealed by Arcade 1UP. This happened during this past weekend's EVO tournament, which if you're a fighting game fan, you already know what that is. So yeah, Arcade 1UP has officially announced the cabinet. We've talked about similar cabinets before. They're like 3/4 scaled arcade style cabinets, stand-up cabinets that this company is known for making to great effect. This one will have Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And as they tend to do, they tend to put other games, like-minded games, in the cabinet along with it. This one will have Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter, X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men Children of the Atom, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, and Marvel Superheroes in War of the Gems.
That's pretty cool. This is probably, you know, like I've talked about getting one of these Arcade 1UP cabinets. This is probably the one I will probably, you know, these are the games that I would really want to play over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought about you when I saw this, but it was also out of that because I like seeing these also because I kind of, this one and that Turtles one that they had, I kind of want to get, but I don't have space for either one of them. Right.
Here. No, I mean that Turtles one, the 4-player one, the Turtles in Time. Forget it, man. I'd call up like the oldest friends that I don't even talk to that much. Like, you know, like we're in like a chat group and maybe we're on Facebook, you know, and we interact like a few times a year. I'd be like, yo, come over. We're playing Turtles in Time like we did when we were cutting class back in high school, right?
Right.
But this cabinet having all those games on it. That I used to just feed quarters into like, you know, machines at the student union in college or in the pool hall club. Forget it, man.
It's funny because the Evo like went on this weekend and they didn't have like NBC there, but you know, like they had like Dragon Ball and Tekken and that kind of stuff.
Right.
It had me pulling up UMCV3. So Capcom versus Ultimate Capcom versus Marvel 3. Just for like 5 or 10 minutes to kind of futz around with that. like I said, the last good one, because let's face it, Infinite was not great. But I'm like, yeah, I remember this. This is great stuff. Like I said, no pricing on this that I see, but their pre-orders are expected to start on September 8th with a retail launch this fall. And I know some of these end up showing up in Walmart and or various places of the like, so you can, at the very least, look at some of the stuff if you're not sure about it. Anyway, next up.
Right. Next up, Marvel's Midnight Suns video game has been delayed a second time, and while it doesn't seem to be a long delay, we're now without a clear release date for the Firaxis tactical RPG. Okay, so it's expected to arrive later this fiscal year, which for Take-Two means sometime before March of 2023, but there's no specific date yet. Additionally, only PC, PS4, and Xbox Series X and S players will get to jump in on that date. The PS4, Xbox One, PS5, I'm assuming this is a typo. The PS5, Xbox One, and Switch versions are planned for even later. Okay.
Wait, what's the... No, I don't think that's a typo. Are you saying... Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, they got PS4.
I'm assuming the first one is correct, and the second one should be
this is PS5. Yes,
that's the only logical way.
Well, actually, the first one would be PS5, given that number, and the second one is PS4. So technically, the second one is right.
All right, I wasn't sure which. I wasn't sure if the Series X Xbox was the new one or the one was the one.
Yeah,
that's how far out of gaming I am, folks. Don't flame me. Don't take shots at me, because I will come right back at you.
And that man's busy. Leave him alone. But yeah, so I mean, hey, look, I'm not opposed to letting folks, as long as they get it right and it's not too buggy, let it, they're not doing it for no crazy reason. Let the game get as much time as it needs to come out. Like I said, it's before a physical year, so I don't know if it's being delayed because they want to have something in that fiscal year, or they're just actually still working on it, because that was why they pushed it the first time. Anyway. World of EPI reveals new collectible doll line inspired by Black Panther World of Wakanda Forever. So we have the leading multicultural doll pioneer, Dr. Lisa Williams, and the World of EPI authentically designed the Fresh Dolls Fierce collection in collaboration with Marvel to bring the strong, powerful, and brilliant warrior characters from the film to life. Series 1 is slated to hit retail in this October. Features 11.5-inch articulated collectible dolls based on the lead characters Shuri, Okoye, and Nakia. Created with great attention to detail, these dolls feature striking character likenesses, custom blended skin tones, authentic and first-of-its-kind innovative hairstyles, intricate fashions, and replica playable battle accessories. Excuse me. World of EPI is the first to mass-produce natural locks hairstyle worn by Nakia in the film. And if you're watching the video version, you can see the styles for yourselves. I'm not seeing a price here, but there you go. Next up, so in Hasbro Marvel Legends news, the Hasbro team revealed the latest wave of MCU-inspired Marvel Legends, the Build-A-Figure, and this is basically what everyone's calling the wave. It's the Khonshu wave. The Build-A-Figure is Khonshu after the character's rendition in the Moon Knight Disney Plus series. Other figures in this wave include a zombie Iron Man, Jimmy Woo, which is really cool. The likeness of Randall Park is actually pretty good. If you zoom in, from far away, it doesn't look that great, but if you zoom in, it's actually pretty good. Mm-hmm. It also includes the classic Loki, as played by, I forget the actor's name, but this is the classic Loki from the Loki TV show. Mm. Oh, Richard something. I can't remember.
Right, I forget his name.
Yeah.
Let's see here. There is a zombie Scarlet Witch. There is also... the He Who Remains from Loki as well, who is a Kang variant that we're going to see more of, and also a Howard the Duck, who's not very articulated, but it's still pretty fun to see Howard the Duck in full Marvel Legends form.
Yep, and as Agent 70 was talking. I'm scrolling through the article showing the figures.
Right. He also comes with an animated Scott Lang's head.
Of course.
Right. And I was about to say, and I think finally they have a revised MCU version of the Red Skull.
Oh, okay.
So this is from, I guess, the animated What If version, but it definitely looks like the MCU version from the movies. It's just a different costume, but the skull looks very much like the other Red Skulls that have been put out for the MCU version of this, for the Marvel Legend of this MCU character.
Right. They've gotten way better with their moldings, because that He Who Remains looks kind of spot on for Jonathan Majors. So their process has been quite refined at this point.
Definitely. And that's one of the reasons why people are they're getting people to rebuy some characters that they already own, because they're being put out on these new bucks, and I've talked about what buck means. The new character mold, the new body molds. They're being put out on new body molds and being repainted, and they're obviously refining their process, their entire process, including the facial scanning to create the facial sculpts. So everything seems to be moving in small and medium-sized increments when it comes to these Marvel Legends. So it's one way they're able to get people to rebuy characters they already own.
Yeah. And I guess and also that thing that you can make your own figure in that. Marvel teases the arrival of a mysterious new Eternal. This is spoilers for A.X.E. Eve of Judgment, which is like a couple weeks ago, I think. But long story short, an Eternal got brought up during the course of that issue, which I totally don't remember. That apparently the story says, well, we'll come back to that another time. So as of yet, we haven't seen it's the Delphin brothers count as 2. Long story, so counting them as 2. Why are there 101 on the list? We'll return to that on another time. So yeah, there's another Eternal in the mix that will probably show up at some point, probably near the end of this here event. Next up.
An ancient Wakandan threat is unleashed in Black Panther Unconquered. So, queued to be in conjunction with the release of the upcoming the upcoming Black Panther sequel, that is. Marvel Comics will also publish a special one-shot titled Black Panther Unconquered #1, written by Brian Edward Hill, former guest of the show, and drawn by Alberto Foche Duarte. It's supposed to be an ideal entry point into the world of Black Panther mythology, perfect for longtime fans and newcomers. Okay.
We'll see. Greg Pak returns to Planet Hulk in new sequel series. So Greg Pak teams up with artist Manuel Garcia for Planet Hulk World Breaker, coming this November. Again, sequel to Planet Hulk, which I've never read. Agent 70 has, as he has told me many times before, previously. Actually, not many. It hasn't come up that often. So
not as much as Future Imperfect.
Right. It's 5-issue limited series. It'll take place 1,000 years into the future and present a shocking expansion and culmination of the mythos of Sakaar. Pac will be joined by the aforementioned artist Manuel Garcia. And, yeah, that's it. November 30th is when this goes on sale, the first issue. Next up.
Good for him.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that Planet Hulk stuff, and I'm glad to see Greg Pak come back to the Marvel fold and tell some more of that stuff. I'm assuming this is in the vein of of X-Men Legends, where it kind of fills in some gaps between the end of Planet Hulk and then World War Hulk.
Right. Or I was about to say, or those Peter David things, but that's actually going before the events of what happened. Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of curious of what they haven't done yet, because I'm sitting here trying to think of what events haven't they revisited at this point. Anyway, next up.
This is it's a big anniversary year.
True, I know, but
anyway, these are some spoilers for Spider-Man 2099 Exodus #5, which is on sale now. It's from last week. So in this issue, it was the official debut of the new X-Men 2099 team. So it's interesting that Steve Orlando and artist Kim Jacinto put in this new group of X-Men 2099 characters. There's a few holdovers from current X-Men, but there's quite a few new ones.
Yeah. Neither one of us were reading that, so there's that.
Right.
Marvel announces new Deadpool series. It's the first one, and I think it's in about a year or so, according to this article. November. Let's see. Yeah, new era for Deadpool begins in November with Deadpool #1, kicking off a new ongoing series from Alyssa Wong and Martin Coccolo. Promises riotous violence and relentless body horror, according to this article. And like I said, it's the first one since the previous volume wrapped in 2021 of January, to be exact. So if you're a Deadpool fan, there you go, I guess. Next.
Marvel Mission Test Kitchen's Tonkatsu Torta. Okay, so this is a part of a debut. This is in the debut issue of a brand new Infinity comic on Marvel Unlimited. So Test Kitchen Infinity comic #1 has a kickoff issue, and it's a new monthly series from the Marvel Unlimited Infinity Comics lineup. I haven't looked at this yet, and it features recipes that will transform readers into culinary superheroes. It's written by Michelin star chef Paul Eschbach, with art by E.J. Su. Test Kitchen follows high-end chef Anna Amayama and her appetizing adventures, and each issue of this vertical app-exclusive series features a recipe by Eschbach himself. Okay.
I can't say with this one, but they have made print versions of certain Infinity comics. Whether this one comes to it, I feel like this one probably seems more likely, but who's to say?
I mean, listen, we've been living the pandemic life for so long. We're all halfway bad cooks now. Forget halfway decent cooks. So, obviously with lockdowns being, hopefully, knock on wood, a thing of the past, and with the rules on quarantining being eased, we're all going to be able to go out and eat more. But at the same time, it's still good to exercise the muscles that are involved when it comes to cooking, including the mental muscles.
Indeed, because ain't no such thing as halfway cooks.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Next up.
Marvel's new protagonist of Damage Control embodies a major office character. So this is for Damage Control, which is getting a new series this November. Damage Control's main protagonist, Gus, is an unassuming fellow in the vibrant Marvel Universe. And to bring him to life, series writers Adam F. Goldberg and Hans Roydenoff channeled The Office, because of course they did. Let's see, there was an interview with CBR, yada, yada, yada. August 24th is when the first issue of Damage Control is going to come out, with artwork by Will Robson and Jay Foskett. There, next up.
Last but not least, go behind the mask, and on the cover in a preview of the Common Rider comic book. So, so this is going to be put out by Titan Comics. And Roddykat's going to scroll through. I'm going to look for the pricing. Oh, so this is going to be going to hit shelves on November 23rd. No word yet on how much this is going to be cover price.
Probably like $3.99, but we don't.
Yeah, more likely than not.
Yeah, might check this out when that comes out. But nevertheless, until then, we got some time, and that's it, folks, for the news section. Get one more last ad read, please.
Yeah, we've been at this a while tonight, folks. It is late, thanks to the gremlins. So our last ad read is the best because it's the shortest and quickest. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through cspn.us. Do it today.
And folks, that is it for the show. And it was a long one. Apologies for that. We had gremlins, but if you weren't here for the video version, you wouldn't know that. So it doesn't matter. Anyway, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdsNeed on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter. PopCultureNet on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com is all those umbrella sites there in. Tim DOGG98, the Osiris that is ish. You can find him at Twitter at Tim DOGG98. You can find him at CB Chron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can also find him at the Kliq Nation. That's THE. Oh Jesus. THEKLIQNATION. Almost had it. On Twitter. You can also find him at thekliqnation.com. And you can also find him at comicbook.com, where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network. That's ESPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can find us recording each and every Thursday night with certain exceptions on twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles and youtube.com/TheKliqNation. That's 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Catch it. We'll be back next week, folks. She-Hulk will be out. The day we record, so that's going to be a little prickly, but we're going to do what we do.
I mean, I don't know how long that first episode will be. I'm going to hope to try to be able to watch it over breakfast, so we'll see.
Yeah, indeed. So one way or another, we'll have some sort of impressions on it or something their own back. And whatever else comes about. Nevertheless, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
My time is up. Peace out to Brooklyn.